The entire reel of life concludes in these brief phrases, in these three successive scenes: water, like rain which we send down from the sky, mingling, and the vegetation of the earth mingles with it, and becoming, then it becomes dry remnants scattered by the winds. How fleeting is this life! All the stages of vegetation are presented, omitting nothing save the secondary phases. The water that precedes and mingles with the earth to bring forth growth is shown, its ripening is shown, its scattering is shown. What remains of the life of vegetation save the secondary stages? This expression gathers all elements of truth, precision, and beauty. Truth, in presenting the stages of vegetation, omitting nothing to fulfill the religious purpose. Precision in fully achieving the intent of the image, and beauty in its fleeting speed that captivates the imagination. It employs linguistic rhythm to shorten the display of the scene, just as it uses artistic presentation techniques for this purpose. The sequence and succession, represented by and then in the progression of stages, align with the method of swift presentation. Moreover, this descending water does not mingle with the earth to bring forth growth, but directly mingles with the vegetation of the earth, a truth, yet a truth presented in a specific manner to achieve the desired speed. 2. Similar to this text is another in meaning and direction, though it differs in one segment to serve an additional purpose alongside the previous one. And know that the life of this world is but amusement and diversion, and adornment and boasting to one another, and competition in increase of wealth and children. Like the example of a rain whose resulting plant growth pleases the tillers. Then it dries, and you see it turned yellow. Then it becomes scattered debris. Qur'an 57:20. The image presented for the brevity of life is almost identical to the first image, and some might imagine there is complete repetition. Yet there is a subtle difference. It prolongs the display of the reel of worldly life as perceived by the disbelievers. It is amusement, diversion, adornment, boasting among yourselves, and competition in wealth and children to say, all that you marvel at, all whose duration you prolong, is in truth fleeting and ephemeral, like the rain whose resulting growth pleases the tillers. Then it dries and you see it turned yellow, then it becomes debris. This is among the subtle intricacies of recurring images in the Qur'an. In every repetition of an image there lies a variation, be it slight or profound, that dispels the illusion of mere repetition without purpose. Even if repetition serves a purpose in the context of divine invitation, it walks hand in hand with artistic beauty through the delicate, perceptible diversity it embodies. Yet let us ponder further. In the preceding examples, brevity was achieved by omitting secondary stages. Here, however, is another illustration that portrays the fleeting nature of life in a similar vein, yet with even greater conciseness. It grasps the two extremities of life and binds them together in a fleeting flash. At the same time, it evokes an illusion of vast duration between these extremities. Competition in worldly increase diverts you until you visit the graves. Qur'an 102:1-2. From one perspective, this image captures the brevity of life. No sooner does it begin with the race for accumulation than it ends at the grave, a portrayal of life's span in the most concise terms, both in word and imagination, at the graves. Yet from another angle, it unfurls the expanse of worldly distraction throughout life, from its inception to its conclusion. The word until aids in highlighting this extension, creating an impression in the soul that these people indulged in distraction for an interminably long time. Such is the marvel of imaginative portrayal. The purpose of depicting life's brevity and the purpose of illustrating the prolonged indulgence in its distractions are both intended in this expression, and both are masterfully realized in this succinct text. In this same direction, albeit with a shift in intent, comes the following text. How can you disbelieve in God when you were lifeless and he gave you life? Then he will cause you to die, then he will bring you back to life, and then to him you will be returned. Qur'an 2:28. In 4 brief segments within a single passage, the story of creation is presented, from a stage before its emergence to a stage after its conclusion. The death that preceded life, then life itself, then the death that seals life, and finally, the life after death. The death before life is a realm of oblivion. The life that follows it spans eras, and the death that succeeds it extends into eternities. All of these are folded into mere words to convey the aspect of swiftness, yet the imagination stretches them in contemplation, declaring that these vast eras in their entirety are but fleeting in the grasp of the supreme power. Here the portrayal is of the omnipotent might that commands a thing be, and it is swiftness amplifies the clarity of this might, especially when these prolonged eras are condensed into a mere blink. How then can you disbelieve in God when he holds dominion over all your affairs from beginning to end, and then to him you will be returned? Qur'an 2:28. To complement this swiftness, the following verse emerges. And it is he who created for you all that is on the earth, then turned to the heaven and made them 7 heavens. Qur'an 2:29. Thus in a flash he created for you all that is on the earth, and in a flash he turned to the heaven and fashioned them into 7 heavens. The creation of what is on the earth, or even a single element thereof in other contexts, spans lengthy verses when the intent is to elaborate and prolong. Up to this point, brevity was achieved through the condensation or merging of stages. Now let us present another example where brevity arises from the swift, forceful strokes of a brush. This miraculous brush sketches a stroke here and a stroke there, and suddenly the entire tableau emerges as if it had never been absent. No sooner does the imagination turn to behold it than it finds it vanished, elusive. And whoever associates others with God, it is as though he had fallen from the sky and was snatched by the birds, or the wind carried him down into a remote place. Qur'an 22:31. Behold, he has fallen from the sky. Behold, the birds have snatched him. Behold, the wind has hurled him into a distant abyss. Behold, the stage and all upon it have disappeared. Why this breathtaking swiftness? So that none may imagine that one who associates partners with God has a foundation, an existence, a resting place, or a duration, no matter how great their lineage, strength, prestige, or progeny. Rather, they emerge in a flash from the unknown, only to vanish in a flash into the unknown. Now, let us turn to the extended scenes. We have witnessed the story of water descending from the sky, mingling with the vegetation of the earth and turning into dry stubble scattered by the winds, a scene presented in fleeting glimpses. Let us now observe how a portion of it is portrayed at leisure with measured deliberation. And it is God who sends the winds, and they stir the clouds, and he spreads them in the sky as he wills, and he makes them fragments, so you see the rain emerge from within them. And when he causes it to fall upon whom he wills of his servants, immediately they rejoice. Qur'an 30:48. Thus, the first segment alone, concerning the descent of water to the earth, occupies these passages and unfolds in these stages. The winds arise, stirring the clouds in the sky as God wills. The clouds gather, rain emerges from them and descends to the earth, bringing joy to those upon whom it falls, after their despair. Let us now behold how the second segment after the water's descent is presented. Have you not seen that God has sent down rain from the sky and directed it to springs in the earth? Then he produces thereby crops of varying colours, then they wither, and you see them turned yellow. Then he makes them into debris. Qur'an 39:21. Thus, with a deliberate pace marked by then, and with measured slowness, the water descends, not merely mingling with the earth or its vegetation, rather it is channeled into springs, from which crops emerge. There is a pause to contemplate the diverse colours of the crops. Then they wither, and you see them yellowed with time to observe them. Then he turns them into debris. Elsewhere, it is said, they become dry stubble or turn into debris, as if by their own accord, without a doer or destiny. Here, however, it is he makes them debris, and they remain in this state. Elsewhere, the winds scatter them, leaving no trace. Here, in the context of displaying divine blessings, a slow presentation, lingering over the images and savouring the scenes, befits the moment. Thus one delights in this extended duration. Another image of crops is likened to Muhammad and the faith with him. That is their similitude in the Torah, and their similitude in the Gospel is as a plant which sends forth its shoots and strengthens them, so they grow firm and stand upon their stalks, delighting the sowers, so that God may enrage by them the disbelievers. Qur'an 48:29. What do you perceive in this crop? It is not mere dry stubble scattered by the winds at all. Rather, it seems to you fixed in its place, rooted in its origin, eternal in its station. The duration of this portrayal is perpetual, the scene steadfast, until the eye turns away from it, while it does not turn away from the eye. Such is the intended purpose, and this steadfastness is a method of prolongation. Among the subtle nuances here is that the overarching image proceeds with a method of prolongation, as we have mentioned, yet its initial parts unfold with rapid succession. As a plant which sends forth its shoots, strengthens them, they grow firm and stand upon their stalks. The firmness and standing are achieved in a short span. Then it becomes fixed and stable. This initial swiftness is as intentional as the final steadfastness in depicting the state of the Muslims. Their growth is completed, then their condition remains stable forever. Elsewhere, life was folded into the blink of an eye from its beginning to its end. Let us now observe how it is prolonged here in the context of elaboration, where a single stage of an individual human life among countless lives occupies such vast space. And certainly did we create man from an extract of clay. Then we placed him as a sperm drop in a firm lodging. Then we made the sperm drop into a clinging clot, and we made the clot into a lump of flesh, and we made from the lump bones, and we covered the bones with flesh. Then we developed him into another creation. So blessed is God, the best of creators. Qur'an 23:12-14. The stage of the embryo alone from a single human life, not the entirety of life, occupies this expanse presented with such detail, mentioning every step, for it is displayed as a lesson for emotional impact and to demonstrate the precision of divine knowledge. In such a context, prolongation is undoubtedly fitting. Among the scenes whose portrayal is sometimes extended are the scenes of torment on the day of resurrection. After the scene is personified as if present and its elements arranged as if witnessed, its presentation is prolonged to touch the senses, awaken the imagination, and allow fear and emotion to seep into the depths of the soul and the core of the conscience. For prolonging the portrayal here, various methods are employed, of which we present a few examples. Scenes of the resurrection are among the most diverse in the Qur'an, deserving a dedicated chapter were it not for the risk of expanding the book excessively. At times, prolongation is achieved through wording that evokes repetition, as in, "Indeed, those who disbelieve in our verses, we will drive them into a fire. Every time their skins are roasted through, we will replace them with other skins, so they may taste the punishment." Qur'an 4:56. Here, the imagination continues to revisit the horrifying scene, repeating the dreadful process. The more it branches out and finds relief, the more it is drawn to repetition, for terror captivates the soul and binds it whenever it seeks respite. At other times, prolongation is achieved through a structured linguistic style, such as detailing after generalization, with the parts presented elaborately, as in, "And those who hoard gold and silver and spend it not in the way of God, give them tidings of a painful punishment. The day when it will be heated in the fire of hell, and seared therewith will be their foreheads, their flanks, and their backs. It will be said, This is what you hoarded for yourselves, so taste what you used to hoard." Qur'an 9:34-35. First it generalizes the torment, "Give them tidings of a painful punishment," and pauses the narrative to allow the observer to catch their breath and prepare for the details. Then it proceeds with the elaboration. Second, when it begins detailing after generalizing, it starts the process deliberately. The gold and silver are amassed in the first stage, slowly, not merely as a pair, with an allusion to their numerous pieces. In this lies prolongation through abundance. Then it will be heated on them. Behold, they are melted, and now begins the dreadful process, the day when it will be heated on them. We wait until they are melted, the foreheads are seared, They have finished searing the foreheads. Let the bodies turn to the flanks are seared. They have finished searing the flanks. Let the bodies turn to the backs are seared. Pause, for the display is not yet complete. There remains the rebuke and reprimand at the imagined departure to torment another group from the long line. This is what you hoarded for yourselves, so taste what you used to hoard. At times prolongation is through detailing movements and their multiplicity, and through the repetition evoked by the words together. These are two adversaries who have disputed over their Lord, but those who disbelieved will have cut out for them garments of fire. Poured upon their heads will be scalding water, by which is melted that within their bellies and their skins. And for striking them are maces of iron. Every time they want to get out of it from anguish, they will be returned to it, and it will be said, "Taste the punishment of the burning fire." Qur'an 22:19-22. This is a violent, dynamic scene, brimming with repeated motion. Garments of fire are cut and tailored. Scalding water is poured over heads, melting what is in the bellies and the skins. Maces of iron are wielded. The torment intensifies, exceeding endurance. Those who disbelieved in the blaze and painful strikes attempt to escape from this anguish, only to be forcefully returned. Taste the punishment of the burning fire. The imagination continues to repeat this image from its first link to its last, reaching the point of attempted escape and violent return to begin the portrayal anew. At other times, prolongation is achieved by halting the movement of the scene, emptying it of all that suggests motion. Here is a wrongdoer standing on the day of resurrection, as if alone on the stage, repeating expressions of regret, until you are tempted to say, "Enough, brother," for there is no benefit. Though the duration it occupies is relatively short, yet it seems to you endlessly long. And the day the wrongdoer will bite on his hands in regret, saying, "Oh, I wish I had taken with the messenger away. Oh, woe to me, I wish I had not taken that one as a friend. He led me astray from the reminder after it had come to me. And ever is Satan to man a deserter." Qur'an 25:27-29. This prolonged regret and reminiscence of what has passed, accompanied by a drawn-out, extended tone and undulating, prolonged melody, creates an illusion of length, though the wording is relatively brief. Prolonging the moment of regret aligns with the desired emotional impact. Similar to the stance of regret is the stance of confession. Here is a group of wrongdoers asked, "What put you into hell?" Their response is, "We were not of those who prayed, nor did we use to feed the poor. And we used to converse idly with the idle, and we used to deny the day of recompense until there came to us the certainty." Qur'an 74:43-47. It would have sufficed for them to say we were disbelievers or deniers, but here the confession is detailed with precision. At times, all the aforementioned methods combine to prolong the portrayal of a scene, employing structured wording, detailing specifics, and pausing at certain links, as in this unique example. "And when the trumpet is blown with a single blast, and the earth and the mountains are lifted and levelled with a single strike, then on that day the occurrence will occur, and the heaven will split open. For that day it is infirm. And the angels are at its edges, and there will bear the throne of your Lord above them, that day 8 of them. That day you will be exhibited for judgment. Not hidden among you is anything concealed. So as for he who is given his record in his right hand, he will say, 'Here, read my record. Indeed, I was certain that I would be meeting my account.' So he will be in a pleasant life, in an elevated garden, its fruit hanging low. It will be said, 'Eat and drink in satisfaction for what you put forth in the days past.' But as for he who is given his record in his left hand, he will say, 'Oh, I wish I had not been given my record, and had not known what is my account. I wish it death had been the decisive one. My wealth has not availed me, gone from me is my authority.' God will say, 'Seize him and shackle him, then into hellfire drive him. Then into a chain whose length is 70 cubits insert him. Indeed, he did not use to believe in God the Most Great, nor did he encourage the feeding of the poor. So for him here this day is no devoted friend, nor any food except from the discharge of wounds. None will eat it except the sinners, Qur'an 69:13-37. In this portrayal, there is prolongation in the details, in the expressions, in the tones and pauses in some of its links, with an overall orchestration of the atmosphere. The chain, whose length is 70 cubits, becomes one of the methods of prolongation through imagination. Among the deliberate examples of prolongation are scenes of contrast between two opposing images, one in this worldly life and the other on the day of resurrection, as follows. Indeed, the record of the righteous is in Ilion, and what can make you know what is Ilion? It is a register inscribed, witnessed by those brought near to God. Indeed, the righteous will be in pleasure, on adorned couches, observing. You will recognize in their faces the radiance of pleasure. They will be given to drink pure wine which was sealed, the last of it is musk. So for that let the competitors compete. And its mixture is of tasneem, a spring from which those near to God drink. Indeed, those who committed crimes used to laugh at those who believed. And when they passed by them, they would exchange derisive glances, and when they returned to their people, they would return jesting. And when they saw them, they would say, Indeed, these are truly lost. But they had not been sent over them as guardians. So today those who believed are laughing at the disbelievers. Qur'an 83:18-34. This prolongation encompasses two scenes, the scene of immense bliss enjoyed by those brought near, and the scene of mockery they endured from the wrongdoers. The longer these scenes are extended, especially the latter, the more striking the surprise at the conclusion when it declares, So today those who believed are laughing at the disbelievers. Such is the intended effect. The scenes that portray exemplars of faith are also prolonged, their extended depictions stirring the conscience and inviting the observers to join the believers in their worship and the traits displayed before their eyes. This is abundant in the Qur'an, from which we select this example. And indeed in the creation of the heavens and the earth and the alternation of the night and the day are signs for those of understanding who remember God while standing or sitting or lying on their sides and give thought to the creation of the heavens and the earth, saying, Our Lord, you did not create this aimlessly. Exalted are you above such a thing, then protect us from the punishment of the fire. Our Lord, indeed, whoever you admit to the fire, you have disgraced him, and for the wrongdoers there are no helpers. Our Lord, indeed, we have heard a caller calling to faith, saying, Believe in your Lord, and we have believed. Our Lord, so forgive us our sins and remove from us our misdeeds and cause us to die with the righteous. Our Lord, and grant us what you promised us through your messengers, and do not disgrace us on the day of resurrection. Indeed, you do not fail in your promise. And their Lord responded to them, Never will I allow to be lost the work of any worker among you, whether male or female. You are of one another. So those who emigrated or were evicted from their homes or were harmed in my cause or fought or were killed, I will surely remove from them their misdeeds, and I will surely admit them to gardens beneath which rivers flow as reward from God, and God has with him the best reward. Qur'an 3:190-195. Who is there whose soul does not stir during this prolonged, steadfast scene, overflowing with reverence and submission, brimming with profound emotion? During this grand, detailed response to the sacrifices of the believers, and the reward awaiting them on the day of recompense, who is there whose soul does not urge them to join those of understanding, to pray their prayers, to humble themselves in their humility, and to have their Lord respond to them, attaining what they attain? Such vivid, living human images are abundant wherever the Qur'an intends to influence the conscience and the heart through exemplary models. Thus, for the contemplator of the Qur'an, horizons unfold beyond horizons of harmony and coherence, from eloquent composition to masterful narration, to interconnected meanings, to a seamless sequence, to expressive wording, to vivid depiction, to personified imagery, to tangible imagination, to harmonious melody, to coherence in parts, to harmony in framework, to consonance in music, to precision in presentation. Through all this, creativity is perfected and the miracle is realized. The story in the Qur'an. The story in the Qur'an is not a standalone artistic endeavor, self-contained in its theme, mode of presentation or orchestration of events as one might find in a free artistic narrative. that seeks to fulfill a purpose unbound by constraints. Rather, it is but one of the many instruments of the Qur'an employed to serve its profound religious aims. The Qur'an, above all, is a book of divine calling, a summons to faith, and the story within it is a means to convey this call and to anchor it in the hearts of its audience. In this, it shares the purpose of the vivid images the Qur'an paints of the day of resurrection, of paradise and torment, of the proofs it offers for the reality of resurrection and the omnipotence of God, of the laws it delineates and the parables it sets forth, alongside all the diverse themes woven into its sacred text. The Quranic story, in its subject matter, its manner of exposition and the unfolding of its events, bows to the exigencies of these religious purposes. The traces of this submission manifest in distinct characteristics, which we shall explore anon. Yet this complete dedication to the divine purpose and its perfect fulfillment thereof does not preclude the emergence of artistic qualities in its presentation. Most notably, it embodies the Qur'an's paramount trait of expression, the art of imagery. We have observed before that Quranic expression harmoniously blends the religious with the aesthetic in the scenes and visions it portrays. Indeed, it renders artistic beauty a deliberate tool for emotional impact, addressing the soul's religious sensibility through the language of aesthetic splendor. For art and faith are twin companions in the depths of the soul, in the innermost recesses of feeling. The perception of artistic beauty is itself a sign of readiness to receive religious influence. When art ascends to such sublime heights and when the soul is purified to embrace the message of beauty. In our discourse on artistic imagery, we presented two exemplars of Quranic stories wherein the miraculous brush of divine expression worked its wonder, rendering them with captivating allure. We promised then to elaborate on the subject of the story, and so let us now embark on this detailed exploration. The purposes of the story. The story in the Qur'an is crafted to realize purely religious objectives, as we have noted. It encompasses a vast array of these objectives, so numerous that to enumerate them fully is nigh impossible, for they permeate nearly all the Qur'an's overarching aims. These include affirming the divine revelation and prophethood, establishing the oneness of God, unifying the essence of all religions, warning and giving glad tidings, manifesting divine power, illustrating the consequences of good and evil, contrasting haste with patience, endurance with despair, gratitude with arrogance, and many other religious and moral aspirations. The story has embraced these themes, serving as a conduit and a path to their realization. As we survey the purposes of the Quranic story here, we shall highlight the most significant and evident among them, leaving a comprehensive tracing of their intricacies for another endeavor. 1. Among the purposes of the story is the affirmation of divine revelation and prophethood. Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was neither a writer nor a reader, nor was it known of him that he sat in the company of Jewish or Christian scholars. Yet these stories emerged in the Qur'an, some narrated with intricate detail and expansiveness, such as the accounts of Abraham, Joseph, Moses, and Jesus. Their presence in the Qur'an became a testament to a revelation divinely inspired. The Qur'an explicitly underscores this purpose in the introductions or conclusions of certain stories. At the outset of Surah Yusuf it declares, "Verily we have sent it down as an Arabic Qur'an so that you may understand. We narrate unto thee the best of stories through our revelation of this Qur'an unto thee, though aforetime thou wast of the heedless." Qur'an 12, 2, 3. In Surah Al-Qasas, before recounting the story of Moses, it states, "We recite unto thee from the story of Moses and Pharaoh in truth for a people who believe." Qur'an 28, 3. And after its conclusion, "Thou wast not on the western side when we decreed the command to Moses, nor wast thou among the witnesses. But we brought forth generations, and long were the ages that passed over them. Nor didst thou dwell among the people of Midian, reciting our signs to them, but it is we who kept sending messengers. Nor wast thou at the side of Mount Tur, when we called out, But this is a mercy from thy Lord, that thou mayest warn a people to whom no warner came before thee, so that they may remember." Qur'an 28, 44, 46. In Surah Al-Amran, amidst the narrative of Mary, it affirms, "This is of the tidings of the unseen which we reveal unto thee. Thou wast not with them when they cast their pens to decide which of them should take charge of Mary, nor wast thou with them when they disputed." Qur'an 3:44. And in Surah Sa'd, before presenting the story of Adam, say, "It is tremendous tidings from which you turn away. I had no knowledge of the highest assembly when they disputed. It is revealed unto me only that I am a clear warner. When thy Lord said unto the angels, Verily, I am about to create a mortal out of clay." Qur'an 38, 67, 71. And in Surah Hud, following the story of Noah, "This is of the tidings of the unseen which we reveal unto thee. Thou knewest it not, neither thou nor thy people before this." Qur'an 11:49. 2. Another purpose of the story is to demonstrate that all religion originates from God, from the era of Noah to that of Muhammad, and that all believers constitute a single community under the one God, Lord of all. Often, the stories of multiple prophets are gathered within a single surah, presented in a unique manner to reinforce this truth. Given the centrality of this purpose to the divine call, these stories are reiterated in this fashion with variations in expression to firmly establish and emphasize this reality in the hearts of the listeners. An example of this is found in Surah Al-Anbiya. "And we gave unto Moses and Aaron the criterion and a shining light, and a reminder for the righteous, those who fear their Lord in the unseen and are apprehensive of the hour. And this is a blessed reminder which we have sent down. Will you then deny it? And aforetime we gave Abraham his right course, and we were aware of him when he said to his father and his people, What are these images to which you are devoted? They said, We found our fathers worshipping them," until it states, "And they plotted against him, but we made them the greatest losers, and we delivered him and Lot to the land which we had blessed for all the worlds, and we bestowed upon him Isaac and Jacob as an additional gift, and each we made righteous. And we made them leaders, guiding by our command, and we inspired them to do good deeds, to establish prayer, and to give alms, and they were worshippers of us alone." Qur'an 21:48, 73. The narrative continues to recount the stories of Lot, Noah, David, Solomon, Job, Ishmael, Idris, Dul-Kifl, Jonah, Zechariah, and Mary, culminating in, "Verily, this community of yours is one community, and I am your Lord, so worship me." Qur'an 21:92. This indeed is the core purpose of this extended recounting, while other objectives weave through it incidentally. 3. Another aim of the story is to affirm the unified foundation of all religion, beyond the truth that it originates from a single God. Accordingly, the stories of numerous prophets are often presented collectively, reiterating the fundamental creed of faith in the one God, as exemplified in Surah Al-Araf, "And we sent Noah to his people, and he said, O my people, worship God, you have no deity other than him." And to Ad, their brother Hud, who said, O my people, worship God, you have no deity other than him. And to Thamud, their brother Salih, who said, O my people, worship God, you have no deity other than him. And to Midian, their brother Shu'aib, who said, O my people, worship God, you have no deity other than him. Qur'an 7:59, 65, 73, 85. This unity in the essence of belief is shared by all prophets across religions, and their stories are woven together in this context to affirm this purpose. 4. A further purpose of the story is to illustrate that the methods of the prophets in their call to faith are unified, and that the reception of their peoples to them bears striking similarity, beyond the fact that religion stems from one God and rests on a single foundation. Thus, the stories of many prophets are presented together, repeating the mode of their calling as seen in Surah Hud, "And we sent Noah to his people. Verily, I am to you a clear warner, that you worship none but God. Indeed, I fear for you the punishment of a painful day." But the leaders among his people who disbelieved said, "We see thee but as a mortal like ourselves, and we see not that any follow thee save the lowest among us at first impression. Nor do we see in you any merit above us, nay, we think you are liars," until it recounts their ultimate challenge and his response. Similarly, with Hud, Salih and others, The pattern of call and rejection echoes with poignant consistency. Qur'an 11:25, 27 and following verses. 5. Among the purposes of the story is to highlight the shared origin between the religion of Muhammad and that of Abraham in particular, and subsequently the religions of the children of Israel in general, emphasizing a connection deeper than the universal bond among all faiths. This is repeatedly referenced in the stories of Abraham, Moses and Jesus. Verily, this is in the earlier scriptures, the scriptures of Abraham and Moses. Qur'an 87:18, 19. Or has he not been informed of what was in the scriptures of Moses, and of Abraham who fulfilled his engagements, that no bearer of burdens can bear the burden of another? Qur'an 53:36, 38. Verily the nearest of people to Abraham are those who follow him, as are this prophet and those who believe, and God is the protector of the believers. Qur'an 3:68. Follow the creed of your father Abraham, it is he who named you Muslims aforetime. Qur'an 22:78. And we sent after them, in their footsteps, Jesus, son of Mary, confirming what came before him of the Torah. And we gave him the gospel, wherein is guidance and light, and a confirmation of what came before it of the Torah, and a guidance and admonition for the righteous. Qur'an 5:46. Until it declares, and unto thee have we sent down the book in truth, confirming the scriptures that came before it, and as a guardian over them. Qur'an 5:48-6. Another purpose of the story is to demonstrate that God ultimately grants victory to his prophets and brings ruin to those who deny them, serving to strengthen Muhammad and to influence the souls of those he calls to faith. And all that we relate to thee of the stories of the messengers is in order that we may make firm thy heart. And herein has come to thee the truth, and an admonition and a reminder for the believers. Qur'an 11:120. In line with this purpose, the stories of the prophets are often presented collectively, concluding with the downfall of those who rejected them, as reiterated in Surah Al-Ankabut and other chapters, painting the recurring theme of divine justice. 7. The story also serves to validate the promises of glad tidings and warnings, presenting tangible examples of this validation, as in Surah Al-Hijr. Inform my servants that I am the forgiving, the merciful, and that my punishment is the painful punishment. Qur'an 15:49-50, stories such as those of Abraham and Lot illustrate mercy and severe chastisement side by side, affirming the dual reality of divine compassion and retribution. 8. Another aim is to manifest God's blessings upon his prophets and chosen ones through the stories of Solomon, David, Job, Abraham, Mary, Jesus, Zechariah, Jonah, and Moses, where episodes of divine favor are highlighted as the primary focus. 9. Finally, the story seeks to alert the children of Adam to the deception of Satan, revealing the eternal enmity between him and humanity since the time of their forefather Adam. Portraying this enmity through narrative is more striking, more potent, and more compelling as a call to vigilance against every whisper of evil in the soul, attributing it to this adversary who desires no good for mankind. Given the timeless relevance of this theme, the story of Adam recurs in various contexts across the Qur'an, a reminder of an enduring spiritual struggle. The story and its manifold purposes bore within it diverse aims, among which were the demonstration of God's boundless power over the extraordinary, as in the tale of Adam's creation, the miraculous birth of Jesus, the narrative of Abraham and the birds that returned to him after being scattered upon the hills, and the story of the man who passed by a desolate town, fallen upon its trellises, only to be revived by God after 100 years of death. It also sought to illuminate the consequences of righteousness and virtue, as well as the outcomes of evil and corruption. This is evident in the story of the two sons of Adam, the parable of the owner of the two gardens, the accounts of the children of Israel after their disobedience, the tale of the dam of Marib, and the story of the people of the trench. Moreover, it aimed to delineate the distinction between the immediate, fleeting wisdom of humankind and the eternal, far-reaching wisdom of the divine. This is exemplified in the story of Moses, with a servant of God, to whom we had granted mercy from our presence and taught knowledge from our own, 1865, a narrative we shall elaborate upon in due course. And so, these admonitory purposes were woven into the fabric of the stories, their meanings profound and their lessons enduring. Effects of the story's submission to the religious purpose. The story in the Qur'an, as we have previously noted, submitted itself wholly to a religious purpose, and this submission left clear imprints upon both its manner of presentation and its very substance. We shall now expound upon the most evident of these effects. The first and foremost effect of this submission is that, in most instances, a single story is recounted in various places throughout the Qur'an. Yet, this repetition rarely encompasses the entire narrative. Rather, it often focuses on specific episodes, most of which are brief allusions to the core lesson embedded within. The full body of the story is seldom repeated, save for particular contexts and specific occasions, as we have illustrated when discussing the purposes of storytelling. When one reads these recurring episodes, attentive to the context in which they appear, one finds them perfectly suited to that context, whether in the choice of the episode presented here or there, or in the style of its narration. We must always bear in mind that the Qur'an is a book of divine invitation, and the harmony between the episode of a story and the context in which it is placed is the paramount objective. This harmony is ever present, never diminishing the artistic essence of the text. There exists, as it were, an almost ordained system in the presentation of these recurring episodes of a single story, a system that becomes apparent when one reads them in the order of their revelation. Most stories begin with a succinct reference which gradually lengthens over time. Then larger episodes are presented, forming in their totality the core of the story. Brief allusions may persist between these major episodes as occasions demand until the story has unfolded all its segments. Thereafter, only fleeting references are made to it. To illustrate this system, let us take the story of Moses, which is the most frequently repeated narrative in the Qur'an. From this perspective, it offers a complete understanding of such repetition. This story appears in approximately 30 places. We shall mention the most significant of these, omitting those instances where merely the name is cited. How then does it unfold in these various contexts? It progresses through the following stages. 1. In Surah Al-Alaq, the 8th in the order of revelation, there is a brief allusion. Verily this is in the earlier scriptures, the scriptures of Abraham and Moses. 87, 18, 19. A similar fleeting reference appears in Surah An-Najm, the 23rd in Revelation. 2. In Surah Al-Fajr, the 10th in Revelation, there is a reference to Pharaoh without mentioning Moses alongside Ad and Thamud. And with Pharaoh, owner of the stakes, all of whom oppressed within the land and made therein much corruption. So your Lord poured upon them a scourge of punishment. 89, 10, 13. A kin allusion appears in Surah Al-Buruj, the 27th in Revelation. 3. In Surah Al-Araf, the 39th in Revelation, the first detailed narration of the story emerges within a broader context of shared narratives with Noah, Hud, Lot and Shu'aib. Here the form of the divine call, the rejection thereof, and the consequent punishment of the deniers are highlighted. The story begins with the mission of Moses and Aaron to Pharaoh. Then we sent after them Moses with our signs and a clear authority to Pharaoh. 7, 103. It recounts the miracle of the staff and the white hand, the gathering of the magicians, their contest with Moses, his triumph over them, their subsequent belief in him, and Pharaoh's persecution of the children of Israel thereafter. It describes the plagues of locusts, lice, frogs and blood unleashed upon Pharaoh and his people, their plea to Moses for relief, the cessation of affliction and their return to oppressing the children of Israel. Then follows their exodus from Egypt, their request to Moses to fashion for them a god as the Egyptians had gods, and his reminder to them of their true Lord. The narrative continues with Moses' appointment with his Lord after 30 nights, extended to 40, his plea to behold God, the crumbling of the mountain, his fainting and recovery, and his return to his people to find them worshipping a calf as a deity, which incites his anger toward his brother. Then comes the selection of 70 men from among them for a divine encounter, their request to see God openly, the mountain overshadowing them, their revival, their supplication for mercy, and the response that mercy is decreed for the believers who follow the unlettered prophet. Thereafter, 2 brief allusions to the mission, rejection and destruction of the deniers appear, one in Surah Al-Furqan, the 42nd in Revelation, and another in Surah Maryam, the 44th. 4. In Surah Taha, the 45th in Revelation, another detailed account begins, starting from an earlier episode than the mission mentioned in Al-Araf. It opens with the vision of the fire on the side of Mount Tur. Has there reached you the story of Moses, when he saw a fire, and said to his family, "Stay here. Indeed, I have perceived a fire, perhaps I can bring you a torch, or find at the fire some guidance." And when he came to it, he was called, "O Moses, indeed I am your Lord, so remove your sandals. Indeed, you are in the sacred valley of Tuwa, and I have chosen you, so listen to what is revealed." 29:13. Moses is commissioned to go to Pharaoh, pleads with his Lord to send Aaron with him as a support and minister, and God reminds him of his favour upon him at his birth and his return to his mother in a brief allusion. The story then proceeds as in Al-Araf, omitting the plagues of locusts, lice, frogs and blood, as well as Pharaoh's covenant with the children of Israel and its violation. A new detail is added, the Samaritans' crafting of the calf, with an elaboration of its making, while the divine appointment is briefly mentioned. 5. In Surah Ash-Shu'ara, the 47th in Revelation, the story begins at the episode of the mission and follows the familiar steps up to the Exodus, adding 2 elements: Moses' mention of having killed an Egyptian and his fear of retribution, and Pharaoh's reminder that he was raised among them as a child yet committed this act. Additionally, the splitting of the sea like a towering mountain is described, with variations in the dialogue between Pharaoh and Moses, affirmations of God's attributes, and differences in the conversation with the magicians. 6. In Surah An-Naml, the 48th in Revelation, the episode of rejection and punishment is summarized in a shared narrative context. 7. In Surah Al-Qasas, the 49th in Revelation, the story commences from its earliest episode, Moses' birth, during the oppression of his people. It narrates his placement in a chest and casting into the river, his rescue by Pharaoh's household, the prohibition of wet nurses for him, his sister's tracing of his whereabouts, and her suggestion of a nurse, his own mother. It continues with his growth, the accidental killing of an Egyptian, his attempt to strike another, the threat to expose his first killing, the advice of a man from the farthest part of the city to flee, his departure to Midian, his meeting with Shu'aib's 2 daughters, his watering of their flocks, one daughter's admiration of him, and her urging her father to employ him. It recounts his service to Shu'aib, his marriage to his daughter under agreed terms, his eventual separation, and his journey with his family. Then comes the vision of the fire, as in Surah Taha, and the story proceeds as before, with the addition of Pharaoh's mockery. "So kindle for me, O Haman, a fire upon the clay, and make for me a tower, that I may look at the God of Moses." 28:38. The narrative concludes with Pharaoh's drowning after Moses' exodus. 8. In Surah Al-Isra, the 50th in Revelation, there is a brief allusion to Pharaoh's drowning and the empowerment of the children of Israel. 9. In Surah Yunus, the 51st in Revelation, a concise account appears within shared narratives to illustrate the consequence of rejection. It briefly mentions the episode of the magicians, the crossing of the sea by the children of Israel, Pharaoh's pursuit and his drowning, with an additional detail at the moment of drowning. Until, when drowning overtook him, he said, "I believe that there is no deity except that in whom the children of Israel believe." 10:90. The response follows, "Now, and you had disobeyed him before and were of the corrupters? So today we will save you in body, that you may be to those who succeed you a sign." 10:91-92, a detail unique to this context. 10. In Surah Hud, the 52nd in Revelation, a fleeting reference to destruction after rejection appears in a shared narrative context. 11. In Surah Ghafir, or Al-Mumin, the 60th in Revelation, the episode of dialogue between Pharaoh and Moses is presented with an addition, Pharaoh's declaration, "Let me kill Moses and let him call upon his Lord," 40:26, and the emergence of a believing man from Pharaoh's household, concealing his faith, advising against killing Moses as he may be on a straight path, a detail unique to this passage. 12. In Surah Fussilat, the 61st in Revelation, a brief allusion appears, as do two quick references in Surah Az-Zukhruf, the 63rd, with an added detail of Pharaoh's boast. "Is not the dominion of Egypt mine, and these rivers flowing beneath me? Then do you not see? Or am I not better than this one who is insignificant and hardly makes himself clear?" 43, 51, 52, a statement unique to this surah. 13. In Surah Ad-Dariyat, the 67th in Revelation, a fleeting mention is made of sending Moses to Pharaoh with clear authority his rejection and his destruction. 14. In Surah Al-Kahf, the 69th in Revelation, the episode of Moses' encounter with a servant of God, endowed with mercy and knowledge from him, is narrated. Moses requests to accompany him to learn from his wisdom, but the servant warns that he will not endure patiently with him. Moses promises patience but ultimately fails to bear with actions whose deeper meaning eludes him. The servant then explains the hidden wisdom behind his deeds, and they part ways, a unique episode mentioned only once. 15. In Surahs Ibrahim and Al-Anbiya, the 72nd and 73rd in Revelation, two brief allusions appear, the latter notably describing the Torah as a criterion, as previously discussed in this context. 16. In Surah Al-Baqarah, the 87th in Revelation, another detailed account emerges in the context of reminding the children of Israel of God's favours upon them and their ingratitude. Some episodes of Moses' story are reiterated, including the provision of manna and quails, with an added detail of their discontent with these blessings and their demand for varied foods. Additionally, the episode of the cow they were commanded to slaughter is introduced, wherein they procrastinated and sought excuses regarding its attributes until they exhausted all pretexts. So they slaughtered her, but they could hardly do it. 2:71. A new episode not mentioned previously. 17. In Surah An-Nisa, the 92nd in Revelation, there is a reference to their demand to see God openly as evidence of their obstinacy and folly. 18. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, the 112th in Revelation, the episode of their refusal to enter the Holy Land is recounted. They said, "O Moses, indeed within it is a people of tyrannical strength, and we will never enter it until they leave it. If they leave it, then we will enter." They said, "O Moses, indeed we will not enter it ever as long as they are within it. So go, you and your Lord, and fight. Indeed we are remaining right here." He said, "My Lord, indeed I do not possess except myself and my brother, so part us from the defiantly disobedient people." God said, "Then indeed it is forbidden to them for 40 years, in which they will wander throughout the land. So do not grieve over the defiantly disobedient people." 5:22-26. The narrative leaves them in their wandering, with no further mention of Moses and only references to the dispersal of the children of Israel and their enmity toward Christ and the Muslims. This story, the most frequently repeated in the Qur'an, reveals through our review the nature of its repetition. Apart from 6 instances, the references are admonitory allusions necessitated by the context. The core episodes are scarcely repeated, and when an episode is reiterated, it often brings a new dimension to the narrative. This story serves as a model for other Quranic narratives, through which we discern that there is no absolute repetition in Quranic storytelling, as some who read the Quran without precision or deep reflection might assume. Among the other effects of the story's submission to the religious purpose in the Qur'an, beyond repetition, is that it is presented to the extent necessary to fulfill the intended message, selecting the episode that aligns with this purpose. At times the story is told from its beginning, at others from its middle or end. Sometimes it is narrated in full, at others only certain episodes are highlighted, and at times it strikes a balance between these approaches depending on where the lesson lies within a particular segment. The historical objective was not among the primary aims of the Qur'an, unlike the narrative purpose, Thus, the story's trajectory was guided by its religious intent. This manifests as follows. We find stories that begin from the very first episode, the birth of their protagonist, because in that birth lies a profound lesson. For instance, the story of Adam, from his creation, reveals a manifestation of God's power, his perfect knowledge, and his grace upon Adam and his progeny. Within it lies the incident with Iblis, bearing the religious purposes we have previously alluded to. The story of Jesus, son of Mary, is presented in full detail, for his birth is the greatest sign in his life. Around this birth revolves the entirety of the debate, from which all issues of Christianity before and after Islam branched. Mary was dedicated to God while still in her mother's womb. Zachariah assumed her guardianship, and from her infancy she was provided with sustenance for which she praised God. Every time Zachariah entered upon her in the prayer chamber, he found with her provision. He said, "O Mary, from where is this coming to you?" She said, "It is from God." 3:37. The narrative then leaps to the pivotal episode of Jesus' birth, the second critical moment in her life. The story of Moses, whose birth amidst the persecution of the children of Israel, the slaughter of their male infants, and his salvation by none other than Pharaoh's household, holds a unique significance in demonstrating God's care and preparation for the mission he would undertake. Subsequent episodes of his life, laden with meaning, are then recounted. The births of Ishmael and Isaac are highlighted for the lessons they bear. The former was granted to Abraham in old age and settled, despite adversity, near the sacred house. The latter was heralded to Abraham and his aged wife, who had reached the limits of barrenness. Likewise, the birth of John to Zachariah is mentioned after his bones had weakened and his head had turned white with age. We also find stories that commence from a relatively later episode. Joseph's story begins in his boyhood, when he beholds a vision that shapes his entire life and future, seeing 11 stars, the sun and the moon prostrating to him. His father grasps its import and draws him near, inciting the envy of his brothers, after which the story unfolds along its destined path. Abraham's story starts in his youth as he gazes at the heavens and sees a star, thinking it his Lord. But when it sets, he declares, "I do not like those that disappear." 6:76. He then beholds the moon and considers it his Lord, but it too sets, so he turns away. Finally he sees the sun, marvelling at its grandeur and deeming it undoubtedly a deity, yet it too disappoints him. Thus he turns to his unseen Lord and calls his father and people to this one God. They refuse, so in their absence he shatters their idols, prompting them to say, "We heard a young man mention them who is called Abraham." 21:60. They intend to burn him, but God saves him. We said, "O fire, be coolness and safety upon Abraham." 21:69. David's story begins in his early youth with his confrontation against Goliath, a formidable and renowned warrior. David prevails, for God grants him victory, and from here his story commences. Solomon, perhaps of an age akin to his father's, is depicted sitting with him to judge a case concerning a field in which a people's sheep had grazed. "And we were witness to their judgment." 21:78. Herein lies a profound reflection upon the divine wisdom that shaped the early judgment bestowed upon Solomon, a sign of the greater dominion God had prepared for him. Then we encounter narratives that emerge only in much later stages, the stories of Futu, Hud, Salih, Lot and Shu'aib, among many others, whose tales are recounted solely at the juncture of their prophetic missions. This singular episode, deemed the most significant in their lives, is where the moral lesson resides. This pertains to the aspect of initiation. As for the dimensions of elaboration and brevity, they too are governed by the weight of admonition and importance embedded in the episodes of these stories. Let us illustrate this with the following examples. 1. The narrative of Moses is presented in its entirety, with every incident and detail meticulously recounted, from his birth, nay, even before his birth, until the moment he stands with his people before the sacred land, where they are decreed to wander for 40 years as a fitting recompense. For every chapter of this story carries a religious purpose, intricately linked to the overarching objectives of the Qur'an. Similarly, the story of Jesus, though with a measure of conciseness in its middle episodes, is detailed in the account of his miraculous birth. His miracles are narrated with precision, as is his encounter with the disciples when they requested the heavenly table which was sent down to them. The episode of his denial by his people, their attempt to crucify him, his ascension, and the subsequent dispersal of his followers is also recounted. Added to this is a depiction of his stance on the day of resurrection when God questions him. "Did you tell your people to take you and your mother as deities besides God?" He disavows such a claim, affirming his call to worship God alone, and leaves their fate to God's will, whether he chooses to show mercy or to chastise. Qur'an 5, 116, 118. Likewise, the story of Joseph unfolds in intricate detail from beginning to end. His trials with his brothers, his journey to Egypt after being sold and raised there, the seduction by the wife of the Aziz, his imprisonment, his interpretation of the dreams of the king's two servants, and later of the king's own vision, his release, and his appointment over the storehouses of the land, akin to ministries of finance and provisions, are all narrated with precision. The arrival of his brothers, their invitation, the coming of his younger brother, their return to their father, and the culmination of the story with the arrival of his father and family, all are elaborated with exquisite care. This detail serves, firstly, to affirm the truth of divine revelation and prophethood, as previously mentioned, and secondly, because these details bear a profound religious value within the narrative. As for Abraham, his story does not commence from its origin, but is presented through various episodes. His moment of faith, as we have noted, his dialogue with his father and people, the shattering of idols, his separation from his father and kin, the blessing of Ishmael and Isaac, his vision of sacrificing his son and the subsequent ransom, the building of the Kaaba, and his call to humanity for pilgrimage. Furthermore, his request to God for a sign regarding the resurrection of the dead, not out of disbelief, for he already believed, but to reassure his heart, is recounted. God commanded him to take 4 birds, draw them close, place a portion of them on each mountain, and call them back, whereupon they returned to him swiftly. Qur'an 2, 260. From Solomon's life, extended episodes are also presented: his judgment in the matter of the field, his kingship, his trial with noble steeds, and his seeking forgiveness from God for this distraction, the subjugation of the winds and jinn to his command, and another trial whose cause the Qur'an does not specify, though the Torah attributes it to a woman. His encounters with the ant, the hoopoe, and Queen Bilqis, as well as his death while leaning on his staff, unbeknownst to the jinn who continued their labour, are all narrated with intent and purpose. 2. There are narratives of moderate detail. The story of Noah recounts specifics of his mission, his call to his people, and their arrogant rejection. The episode of building the ark, the deluge, the drowning of his son, his plea to God to save him, and God's refusal on account of his son's unrighteous deeds are all included. Qur'an 11:42-47. The story of Adam is elaborated in his creation, his transgression, his descent to earth, his repentance, and God's acceptance thereof. The narrative of Mary is detailed at the time of her birth and at the birth of Jesus. David's story, while not as extensively detailed as Solomon's, encompasses numerous episodes from his life. 3. There are also concise narratives. The stories of Hud, Salih, Lot, and Shu'aib, despite their repetition, are brief, for they are presented solely at the stage of their prophetic missions. They include the message, the dialogue with their people, the rejection by their communities, and their ultimate destruction. Ishmael's story is mentioned at his birth, at the moment of his ransom from sacrifice, and during his participation with his father in building the Kaaba, all in relative brevity. Jacob's story is woven into the narrative of Joseph and is mentioned again at the moment of his death, when he asks his sons, "What will you worship after me?" They reply, "We will worship your God and the God of your forefathers." Qur'an 2, 133. This episode is highlighted for its significance in affirming monotheism as Jacob's final testament. 4. There are narratives of extreme brevity. The story of Zechariah is mentioned at the birth of John and during his guardianship of Mary. The story of Job is recounted at the time of his affliction, his cry to God for relief, his healing, and the restoration of his family. Jonah's tale is narrated at the moment of his being swallowed by the whale, his expulsion onto barren land, his mission to his people, and their eventual belief in him. 5. There are stories merely alluded to, with fleeting descriptions of their protagonists, such as those of Idris, Elisha, and Dhul-Kifl, and a group whose names are mentioned only in the context of recounting the lineage of prophets. 6. As for other scattered narratives, such as the story of the people of the trench, the companions of the cave, the two sons of Adam, the owner of the two gardens, the people of the garden, the dam of Ma'rib, and the man who passed by a desolate town and wondered how God could revive it after its death, Qur'an 2:259, these are purely admonitory tales. They are presented to the extent necessary to convey their moral lesson. Some have been reviewed earlier, and others will be discussed later. For now, this brief mention suffices. Our aim is to illustrate that the Quranic narrative is shaped by the religious purpose it serves, and we have conveyed what we intended in this regard. A consequence of the narrative's submission to the religious purpose is the integration of religious guidance within its fabric, before, after, and throughout its course. As for the guidance preceding the story, we have previously cited two examples. First, the indication that these stories affirm divine revelation as seen in the narratives of Joseph and Adam. Second, the story's role as confirmation of divine tidings, such as the declaration, "Inform my servants that I am indeed the oft-forgiving, the most merciful, and that my punishment is indeed the grievous punishment." Qur'an 15:49-50, followed by narratives that exemplify both mercy and chastisement. As for guidance following the story, we have also cited two examples. First, the reaffirmation of the stories as evidence of divine revelation, as seen after the story of Moses in Surah Al-Qasas and after Noah's story in Surah Hud. Second, the reminder that God's punishment is just and comes only after due warning, as articulated in Surah Al-Ankabut, following the collective stories of the prophets. So each we seized for his sin, and among them were those upon whom we sent a storm of stones. And among them were those who were seized by the blast, and among them were those whom we caused the earth to swallow, and among them were those whom we drowned. And God would not have wronged them, but it was they who were wronging themselves. Qur'an 29:40. Whoever traces the stories of the Qur'an will find a religious commentary following each narrative, befitting the lesson it imparts. As for the guidance woven into the narrative itself, let us offer some examples. 7. Or consider such an example as the one who passed by a township that had fallen into ruin. He said, "How will God bring this to life after its death?" So God caused him to die for 100 years, then he revived him. He said, "How long have you remained?" The man said, "I have remained a day, or part of a day." He said, "Rather you have remained 100 years. Look at your food and your drink, it has not changed with time. And look at your donkey. And we will make you a sign for the people, and look at the bones of this donkey, how we raise them, and then we cover them with flesh." And when it became clear to him, he said, "I know that God is over all things competent." Qur'an 2:259. Thus, within the narrative, the verse declares, "And we will make you a sign for the people." And at its conclusion, the man affirms, "I know that God is over all things competent." 8. In the story of Solomon with Bilqis, the Hoopoe declares, "I have found there a woman ruling them, and she has been given of all things, and she has a great throne. I found her and her people prostrating to the sun instead of God, and Satan has made their deeds pleasing to them and averted them from his way, so they are not guided. Why do they not prostrate to God, who brings forth what is hidden in the heavens and the earth, and knows what you conceal and what you declare? God, there is no deity except him, Lord of the great throne." Qur'an 27:23-26. All this is uttered by a hoopoe within the narrative, guiding humanity through its insight. 9. In the story of Joseph with the king's two servants, as he interprets their dreams, he says, "That is of what my Lord has taught me. Indeed, I have left the religion of a people who do not believe in God, and they in the hereafter are disbelievers. And I have followed the religion of my fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and it was not for us to associate anything with God. That is from the favour of God upon us and upon the people, but most of the people are not grateful. Qur'an 12:37-38. Thus the flow of the narrative is ever interspersed with such guidance, beyond the inherent morale conveyed through its events alone. The reader of Quranic stories will find such directives scattered throughout in this manner or another, abundant and overflowing, pointing to the fundamental purpose of the narrative, which is, above all, religious. The religious and the artistic in the narrative. We have said that the submission of the narrative to a religious purpose does not preclude the emergence of artistic qualities in its presentation. Now we assert that this very submission has given rise to specific artistic traits which are credited to the artistic treasury of storytelling in the realm of unfettered arts. This affirms what we stated at the outset of this chapter, that the Qur'an employs artistic beauty as a deliberate tool for emotional impact, addressing the religious sentiment through the language of aesthetic artistry. In what follows, we explore these artistic traits, which we term the manifestations of artistic coordination in the narrative. Since the objectives of Quranic stories include affirming the oneness of God, the unity of religion, the unity of messengers, the unity of the methods of calling to faith, and the unity of the fate that befalls deniers, as we elucidated at the beginning of this chapter, the submission of the narrative to these purposes results in the repeated presentation of the procession of prophets and messengers calling to a singular faith, juxtaposed with a humanity that persistently denies this unified religion across the expanse of time. This repetition, born of these purposes, creates an artistic beauty from another perspective. The portrayal of this procession evokes in the contemplator the illusion of a single humanity, unified despite the vast stretches of eras and ages. Each prophet passes, delivering his guiding word, only to be rejected by this erring humanity. Then he departs, and the next comes to utter the same word, and so it continues. We sent Noah to his people, and he said, O my people, worship God. You have no deity other than him. Indeed, I fear for you the punishment of a tremendous day. The eminent among his people said, Indeed, we see you in clear error. He said, O my people, there is not error in me, but I am a messenger from the Lord of the worlds. I convey to you the messages of my Lord and advise you, and I know from God what you do not know. Then do you wonder that there has come to you a reminder from your Lord through a man from among you, that he may warn you, and that you may fear God, so you might receive mercy? But they denied him. So we saved him and those with him in the ship, and drowned those who denied our signs. Indeed, they were a blind people. Qur'an 7:59-64. And to Ad we sent their brother Hud. He said, O my people, worship God. You have no deity other than him. Will you not fear him? The disbelieving leaders of his people said, Indeed, we see you in foolishness, and indeed we think you are of the liars. He said, O my people, there's no foolishness in me, but I am a messenger from the Lord of the worlds. I convey to you the messages of my Lord, and I am to you a trustworthy adviser. Do you wonder that there has come to you a reminder from your Lord through a man from among you to warn you? And remember when he made you successors after the people of Noah and increased you in stature extensively. So remember the favours of God that you might succeed. They said, Have you come to us that we should worship God alone and leave what our fathers have worshipped? Then bring us what you promise us, if you should be of the truthful. He said, Already have defilement and anger fallen upon you from your Lord. Do you dispute with me concerning mere names you have named them? You and your fathers, for which God has not sent down any authority. Then wait, indeed, I am with you among those who wait. So we saved him and those with him by mercy from us. And we eliminated those who denied our signs, and they were not at all believers. Qur'an 7:65-72. And to Thamud we sent their brother Salih. He said, O my people, worship God. You have no deity other than him. There has come to you clear evidence from your Lord. This is the she-camel of God, sent to you as a sign. So leave her to eat within God's land, and do not touch her with harm, lest there seize you a painful punishment. And remember when he made you successors after Ad, and settled you in the land, and you take for yourselves palaces from its plains, and carve from the mountains homes. Then remember the favours of God, and do not commit abuse on the earth, spreading corruption. The leaders of those who were arrogant among his people said to those who were oppressed, to those who believed among them, Do you actually know that Salih is sent from his Lord? They said, Indeed we, in that with which he was sent, are believers. Said those who were arrogant, Indeed we, in that which you have believed, are disbelievers. So they hamstrung the she-camel and were insolent toward the command of their Lord, and said, O Salih, bring us what you promise us if you should be of the messengers. So the earthquake seized them, and they became within their home corpses, fallen prone. Qur'an 7:73, 78, and so forth. With each recurrence of this procession, there is an opportunity to contemplate this grand display, pausing at each prophet before moving forward until it reaches Muhammad standing before the disbelievers of Quraysh. Behold, he utters that same timeless message, and they respond with the same oft-repeated denial. In contemplating this procession in such a manner, there lies an undeniable beauty. Moreover, one of the effects of the narrative's submission to the religious purpose is the selection of episodes that align with these objectives. This has given rise to what resembles a general system, wherein the final episode presented, according to the order of the surahs, coincides with the most evident religious purpose for which the story was crafted. Simultaneously, this conclusion aligns with artistic principles, appearing as a fitting artistic closure in itself, beyond the religious intent behind it. We have previously observed in the story of Moses that its final mention occurs in Surah Al-Ma'idah, and the episode highlighted there is that of the wandering. Here are the children of Israel, upon whom God lavished his blessings and extended his mercy. Yet in the end they failed to preserve this grace and refused to enter the sacred land, despite Moses' tireless efforts to guide them back. Their punishment, therefore, is to be left wandering without guide or aid until the appointed time arrives. This is a purely religious purpose. Yet, could there be a more poignant conclusion than the scene of their wandering after all that immense struggle and profound hesitation? Indeed, the scene of wandering is the most fitting artistic conclusion, even if the story were free of all constraints. Let us trace this phenomenon in other narratives. 10. The story of Abraham appears in approximately 20 places, with its final mention in Surah Al-Hajj 22, 26, 27, presenting the following episode, and mention, O Muhammad, when we designated for Abraham the site of the house, saying, Do not associate anything with me, and purify my house for those who perform tawaf, and those who stand in prayer, and those who bow and prostrate, and proclaim to the people the Hajj pilgrimage. They will come to you on foot and on every lean camel. They will come from every distant pass. Qur'an 22, 26, 27. From a religious perspective, this establishes a connection between the rituals of Hajj in Islam and those in Abraham's faith, a deliberate purpose, as we have stated. The same surah concludes with the final mention of Abraham, the religion of your father Abraham. It is he who has named you Muslims before. Qur'an 22, 78. Yet, from a purely artistic standpoint, could there be a more fitting conclusion to Abraham's story than the scene of him proclaiming the pilgrimage to humanity as the builder of the house and the one who entrusted his child Ishmael there before its construction? Undoubtedly, it is the most appropriate artistic closure, even if the religious purpose had not necessitated it. 11. The story of Jesus, son of Mary, appears prominently in 8 places, with its final episode presented in Surah Al-Ma'idah 5, 116, 118. And beware the day when God will say, O Jesus, son of Mary, did you say to the people, Take me and my mother as deities besides God? He will say, Exalted are you. It was not for me to say that to which I have no right. If I had said it, you would have known it. You know what is within myself, and I do not know what is within yourself. Indeed, it is you who is knower of the unseen. I said not to them except what you commanded me, to worship God, my Lord and your Lord, and I was a witness over them as long as I was among them. But when you took me up, you were the observer over them, and you are over all things witness. If you should punish them, indeed they are your servants, but if you forgive them, indeed it is you who is the exalted in might, the wise. Qur'an 5, 116, 118. This conclusion serves as both a religious and artistic culmination for a story whose miraculous birth sparked doubts and complex controversies. Here, in the final moment before his Creator, Jesus affirms his servitude, bears witness to what he conveyed to his people, and entrusts their fate to God, the exalted in might, the wise. Art demands such a conclusion when the story is presented in the Quranic manner. 12. The story of Adam consistently concludes with his descent from paradise. If it extends beyond, it only includes his repentance for his sin and its acceptance by his Lord, without delving into subsequent earthly events, as for instance the Torah does. The religious purpose is fulfilled with Adam's descent from paradise as a consequence of heeding the counsel of his ancient foe and forgetting the command of his generous Lord. As for art, it finds in this conclusion all that an artist could desire: the descent from paradise, leaving the story open thereafter for the imagination to follow the plight of poor Adam and his wife, strangers in a land whose bounds they do not know, unaccustomed to its life and lacking experience in its sustenance, extending to whatever scenes and suppositions the imagination may conjure, whose artistic beauty would be diminished by any further elaboration beyond this conclusion. 13. The story of Solomon appears in 3 places, with its final mention in Surah Al-Anbiya 21, 78, 82, and mention David and Solomon when they judged concerning the field in which the sheep of the people had pastured at night, and we were witness to their judgment. And we gave understanding of the case to Solomon, and to each of them we gave judgment and knowledge. And we subjected the mountains to glorify us with David, and also the birds. And we were doing that, and we taught him the fashioning of coats of armor to protect you from your enemy's attack. But are you grateful? And to Solomon we subjected the wind, blowing forcefully, proceeding by his command toward the land which we had blessed. And we are ever of all things knowing, and of the devils were those who dived for him and did work other than that. And we were for them guardians. Qur'an 21, 78, 82. And here lies a religious purpose among the manifold purposes of the story of Solomon. Yet it may seem that the artistic conclusion in this narrative does not fully align with the sacred intent. The scene of Solomon, leaning upon his staff after his passing, might indeed be deemed the fitting artistic closure, and without doubt it serves well as such. However, the scene of judgment and wisdom holds its own artistic value within Solomon's life. For he is Solomon the Wise, as he is oft named, and he is Solomon the King. In this early judgment lies a testimony to the divinely bestowed wisdom, a prelude to the vast kingdom that would be his. Moreover, it is a method of storytelling, a way of presentation, to conclude the tale of a hero with a scene from his childhood or youth, a scene intimately tied to the central axis of his story, from its inception to its end. Even the shared narratives among several prophets, whose religious purposes are well known, have been concluded in their final presentation with an artistic closure that harmonizes with their essence. In brevity it is said, "And if they deny thee, so too were denied before them the people of Noah, and Ad, and Thamud, and the people of Abraham, and the people of Lot, and the dwellers of Midian, and Moses too was denied. Then I gave respite to the disbelievers, but at last I seized them, and how awesome was my denial." Qur'an 22, 42, 44. This is a conclusion rooted in reality, a conclusion steeped in faith, and a conclusion that unites both in a singular moment. As for the story of Joseph, it bears a unique harmony in its ending, mirroring its beginning. The tale commenced with Joseph's vision, and it culminates in the realization of that vision with his brothers and parents bowing before him. It does not stray beyond this point, as the Torah does, for the religious purpose has been fulfilled, and with it the story attains its most beautiful closure. This fulfillment was in accordance with the religious objectives of the narrative, aligning with the milieu in which it was presented. Thus a kind of artistic harmony emerged, which we have discussed in a dedicated chapter wherein we explored the various shades of depiction in the Qur'an. As for its manifestation within the narrative's context, we have already cited an example when discussing the purposes of the story. It is exemplified in the verse, "Tell my servants that I am indeed the oft-forgiving, the most merciful, and that my punishment is indeed the grievous punishment." Qur'an 15:49-50. This is followed by narratives that affirm this divine proclamation. Now we present further examples wherein the religious purpose and artistic harmony are in perfect accord. 1. In Surah Al-Araf, the story of Adam is presented as follows: "And indeed we created you, then we fashioned you, then we said to the angels, prostrate yourselves before Adam. So they prostrated, save Iblis. He was not among those who prostrated. God said, what prevented thee from prostrating when I commanded thee? He said, I am better than him. Thou createdst me from fire, and him thou createdst from clay. God said, descend from it, for it is not for thee to be arrogant therein. So go forth, verily thou art of the humiliated. He said, grant me respite until the day they are raised. God said, verily thou art of those granted respite. He said, because thou hast led me astray, I shall surely lie in wait for them on thy straight path. Then I shall come upon them from before them, and from behind them, from their right and from their left, and thou wilt not find most of them grateful. God said, go forth from it, disgraced and expelled. Whosoever of them follows thee, I shall surely fill hell with you all. And, O Adam, dwell thou and thy wife in the garden, and eat from wherever you wish, but approach not this tree, lest you be of the wrongdoers. But Satan whispered to them, that he might expose to them what was hidden of their shame, and he said, your Lord has not forbidden you this tree, save that you become angels or of the immortals. And he swore to them, verily I am to you a sincere adviser. Thus did he deceive them with delusion. And when they tasted of the tree, their shame became apparent to them, and they began to cover themselves with the leaves of the garden. And their Lord called to them, did I not forbid you that tree, and tell you that Satan is to you a manifest enemy? They said, our Lord, we have wronged ourselves, and if thou dost not forgive us and have mercy upon us, we shall surely be of the lost. God said, descend as enemies to one another, and for you on earth is a dwelling and provision for a time. He said, therein shall you live, and therein shall you die, and from it shall you be brought forth. Qur'an 7:11-25. Then the discourse continues, calling upon the children of Adam to beware of Satan. O children of Adam, let not Satan seduce you, as he expelled your parents from the garden. Qur'an 7:27. It urges them to enjoy within the lawful bounds, to refrain from prohibiting what God has made lawful, and to obey the messengers sent by God. It states, verily we have made the devil's allies to those who do not believe. Qur'an 7:27. The narrative extends to the day of resurrection, portraying the stance of the believers who followed God's guidance and the disbelievers who pursued Satan's deception, until it concludes with their entry, some into hell and others into paradise. There the dwellers of the heights call out, as we have elaborated in the chapter on artistic depiction, enter the garden, no fear shall be upon you, nor shall you grieve. Qur'an 7:49. And from the highest assembly they are addressed, that is the garden which you have inherited for what you used to do. Qur'an 7:43. It is as if this were the return of the exiles, the homecoming of the wayfarers to the abode of bliss. They earned this return and inherited the garden because they resisted Satan after his followers had been the cause of their expulsion. In this homecoming there is a harmony of presentation with that expulsion discussed in the chapter on harmony, a harmony of an unparalleled style. Such harmony is evident in the Quranic narratives, and we suffice with this example, inviting readers to explore other stories in the Qur'an guided by this light. The artistic characteristics of the story. We now turn to the general artistic characteristics that fulfill the religious purpose of the story through the medium of aesthetic beauty. For this beauty renders the narrative more accessible to the soul and deeper in its impact upon the heart. This exploration addresses 4 artistic phenomena, each holding a distinct place in the study of free narrative in the realm of arts. First among these characteristics is the diversity in the method of presentation. In the Quranic stories, we observe 4 distinct approaches to initiating the narrative as follows. 2. At times, a summary of the story is presented first, followed by detailed exposition from beginning to end. This is evident in the story of the companions of the cave, which begins thus. Or hast thou thought that the companions of the cave and the inscription were among our signs something wondrous? When the youths sought refuge in the cave, they said, Our Lord, grant us mercy from thyself, and prepare for us right conduct in our affair. So we sealed their ears in the cave for a number of years. Then we raised them up, that we might know which of the 2 parties was best at calculating the time they had tarried. Qur'an 18:9-12. This is a summary of the tale, followed by details of their consultation before entering the cave, their state upon entering, their sleep, their awakening, their sending one of their own to buy food, his discovery in the city, his return, their death, the building of a sanctuary over them, and the disagreement among the people regarding their affair. It is as if this summary serves as an enticing prelude to the detailed account. 3. At other times, the outcome and moral of the story are mentioned first, followed by the narrative's unfolding from its inception, detailing its stages. This is the case with the story of Moses in Surah Al-Qasas, which begins, These are the verses of the clear book. We recite to thee from the tidings of Moses and Pharaoh in truth for a people who believe. Verily, Pharaoh exalted himself in the land and made its people into factions, oppressing a group among them, slaughtering their sons and sparing their women. Indeed, he was of the corrupters. And we desired to show favour to those who were oppressed in the land, to make them leaders and to make them the inheritors, and to establish them in the land, and to show Pharaoh and Haman and their hosts what they feared from them. Qur'an 28:1-6. Then follows the detailed account of Moses' birth, upbringing, nursing, growth, his killing of the Egyptian, and his departure, as previously elaborated. It is as if this introduction, revealing the story's purpose, serves as a captivating preparation for understanding the path by which this purpose is realized. A similar approach is seen in the story of Joseph, which begins with the vision he recounts to his father, who foretells a great destiny for him. When Joseph said to his father, O my father, I saw 11 stars and the sun and the moon. I saw them prostrating to me. He said, O my son, do not relate thy vision to thy brothers, lest they devise a plot against thee. Verily Satan is to man a manifest enemy. Thus will thy Lord choose thee and teach thee the interpretation of events, and complete his favour upon thee and upon the family of Jacob, as he completed it upon thy forefathers, Abraham and Isaac. Verily thy Lord is knowing, wise. Qur'an 12:4-6. The story then proceeds as if to interpret this vision and fulfill what Jacob anticipated, concluding upon its realization without extending beyond this precise artistic closure, unlike the narrative in the Torah. 4. Sometimes the story is presented directly without prelude or summary, carrying within its surprises a unique allure. Such is the story of Jesus at his birth, with its well-known surprises, which we shall detail in due course. Likewise, the story of Solomon with the ants, the hoopoe, and the Queen of Sheba, which we shall also elaborate upon. 5. At other times, the story is rendered as a dramatic scene, with mere words hinting at the beginning of the presentation, leaving the narrative to speak through its characters. This is exemplified in the scene of Abraham and Ishmael, as discussed in the chapter on depiction. And when Abraham was raising the foundations of the house, and Ishmael with him, Our Lord, accept this from us. Verily thou art the hearing, the knowing. Qur'an 2:127. This is the initial indication, while what follows is left to Abraham and Ishmael to express, continuing to the end of the lengthy scene. Such examples abound in many Quranic narratives. Second among these characteristics is the diversity in the method of surprise. At times, the secret of the surprise is concealed from both the protagonist and the audience, only to be unveiled to them simultaneously. An example is the story of Moses with the righteous servant in Surah Al-Kahf, which unfolds thus. And when Moses said to his servant, "I will not cease until I reach the junction of the two seas, or I shall journey for ages." But when they reached the junction between them, they forgot their fish, and it took its way into the sea, slipping away. So when they had passed beyond, he said to his servant, "Bring us our morning meal. We have indeed suffered fatigue in this journey of ours." He said, "Didst thou see, when we took refuge at the rock? Verily I forgot the fish, and none but Satan made me forget to mention it. And it took its way into the sea. How strange." He said, "That is what we were seeking." So they turned back, retracing their steps. Then they found one of our servants, upon whom we had bestowed mercy from us, and taught knowledge from our presence. Moses said to him, "May I follow thee, that thou mayest teach me of the right guidance thou hast been taught?" He said, "Verily, thou wilt not be able to bear with me patiently. And how canst thou be patient with that of which thou hast no full knowledge?" He said, "Thou wilt find me, if God wills, patient, and I shall not disobey thee in any matter." He said, "If thou followest me, do not question me about anything until I myself mention it to thee." So they set out, until, when they embarked on the ship, he made a hole in it. Moses said, "Hast thou made a hole in it to drown its people? Thou hast indeed done a grievous thing." He said, "Did I not say that thou wouldst not be able to bear with me patiently?" He said, "Do not take me to task for what I forgot, nor burden me with hardship in my affair." So they set out, until, when they met a boy, he killed him. Moses said, "Hast thou killed an innocent soul without cause of a soul? Thou hast indeed done a dreadful thing." He said, "Did I not say to thee that thou wouldst not be able to bear with me patiently?" He said, "If I question thee about anything after this, keep me not in thy company. Thou hast already received from me an excuse." So they set out, until when they came to the people of a town, they asked its people for food, but they refused to offer them hospitality. Then they found therein a wall about to collapse, and he set it upright. Moses said, "If thou hadst wished, thou couldst have taken a wage for it." He said, "This is the parting between me and thee. I will inform thee of the interpretation of that which thou couldst not bear patiently." Qur'an 18, 60, 78. Up to this point we are confronted with successive surprises, the secrets of which remain unknown, and our stance mirrors that of the protagonist Moses. Indeed, we do not even know the identity of this enigmatic figure who performs such astonishing acts, for the Qur'an does not name him, adding to the aura of mystery that envelops us. What value lies in his name? He is meant to represent the supreme cosmic wisdom which does not align immediate outcomes with visible causes but aims at distant purposes beyond the limited gaze of mortal eyes. Thus the omission of his name befits the abstract essence he embodies. Unknown forces govern the narrative from its outset. Moses seeks this promised man and journeys towards him, yet his servant forgets their meal at the rock, as if this forgetfulness was destined to compel their return, where they encounter the man. Had they continued on their path, they would have missed him, had not fate led them back to the rock once more. The entire atmosphere is shrouded in mystery and the unknown, as is the name of this enigmatic man. Then the secret begins to unfold, revealed to the audience as it is to Moses. As for the ship, it belonged to poor people working at sea, and I intended to damage it, for behind them was a king who seized every ship by force. And as for the boy, his parents were believers, and we feared that he would overburden them with transgression and disbelief. So we intended that their Lord should substitute for them one better than him in purity and nearer in mercy. And as for the wall, it belonged to 2 orphan boys in the city, and beneath it was a treasure for them, and their father had been righteous. So thy Lord intended that they should reach their maturity and extract their treasure as a mercy from thy Lord. And I did not do it of my own accord. That is the interpretation of that which thou couldst not bear patiently. Qur'an 18, 79, 82. In the awe of the unveiled secret, the man departs as mysteriously as he appeared. The mind may linger in wonder, questioning, who was this? Yet it receives no answer. He has vanished into the unknown as he emerged from it, for the story embodies the greater wisdom, which reveals itself only in measure, remaining forever veiled. This is a horizon of harmony, which finds its place in the chapter on harmony. Let the reader reflect upon it within those vistas. At other times, the secret is revealed to the audience, while the characters remain in ignorance, acting without awareness of it, as the spectators witness their actions with full knowledge. Often this occurs in a context of irony, allowing the audience to partake in the mockery from the very first moment, laughing at the characters' unwitting deeds. We have seen an example in the story of the owners of the garden. When they swore to harvest it in the morning and made no exception, a visitation from thy Lord encompassed it while they slept, so it became as if reaped. Qur'an 68, 17, 19. While we, the audience, know this, the owners of the garden remain unaware. And they called one another at morning, Go early to your crop, if you would harvest it. So they set out, whispering to one another, Let no poor man enter it upon you today. And they went forth, determined in their purpose. Qur'an 68, 21, 24. We, the spectators, continue to mock them as they call and whisper to one another, while their garden lies desolate as if reaped, until at last the secret is revealed to them after we have exhausted our amusement. They said, Verily we have gone astray, nay, we are deprived. Qur'an 68, 26, 27. Such is the recompense of those who deny the poor. This, too, is a form of harmony, to be added to its counterparts elsewhere. At yet other times, part of the secret is disclosed to the audience while remaining hidden from the protagonist in one instance, and hidden from both in another within the same story. An example is the story of the throne of the Queen of Sheba, brought in the blink of an eye. We know it is before Solomon, while she remains ignorant of what we understand. So when she arrived it was said, Is this thy throne? She said, It is as if it were. Qur'an 27, 42. This is a surprise whose secret we knew beforehand. However, the surprise of the glass-paved palace remains hidden from us and from her until we are startled alongside her. It was said to her, Enter the palace. But when she saw it, she thought it a pool of water and uncovered her legs. He said, Verily, it is a palace paved smooth with glass. Qur'an 27, 44. We shall detail this story shortly. At times, there is no secret at all. Instead, the surprise confronts both protagonist and audience simultaneously, and they uncover its meaning in the same moment. Such are the surprises in the story of Mary when she withdrew from her people to a secluded place and was startled by the faithful spirit in the form of a man. She said, Verily, I seek refuge in the most merciful from thee, if thou art God-fearing. Qur'an 19:18. Indeed, we knew a moment before her that it was the spirit, but the moment did not linger, for he informed her, I am only a messenger of thy Lord to grant thee a pure boy. Qur'an 19:19. We were equally astonished with her when the pangs of childbirth drove her to the trunk of a palm tree, and she said, Oh, would that I had died before this and become something forgotten, utterly forgotten. Qur'an 19:23. Then a voice called to her from beneath, Do not grieve, thy Lord has placed beneath thee a stream. Qur'an 19:24. The third artistic characteristic in the presentation of the story is the gaps between scenes, created by the division of scenes and settings, akin to the lowering of the curtain in modern theatre or the transition of sequences in contemporary cinema. Between each scene or sequence lies a gap, filled by the imagination, which delights in building a bridge between the preceding and the subsequent scene. This method is employed in nearly all Qur'anic narratives, observable in the stories we have previously presented. Here we offer an example from the story of Joseph, divided into 28 scenes. Let us explore a few. Joseph's brothers came to him while he was in charge of the storehouses during years of famine, seeking grain. He requested that they bring their other brother, his full sibling. They did so, albeit reluctantly from their father. Then Joseph placed the king's goblet in his brother's baggage, taking him as a hostage under the accusation of theft to keep him by his side. Then behold, his brothers withdrew to confer among themselves, as Joseph refused to take one of them in his place. So, when they despaired of him, they conferred privately. The eldest among them said, "Know you not that your father took from you a solemn pledge in God's name, and how, before you failed in the matter of Joseph? I shall not leave this land until my father permits me or God judges for me, and he is the best of judges. Return to your father and say, 'O our father, verily thy son has stolen, and we bear witness only to what we know, and we could not guard against the unseen. Ask the town in which we were, and the caravan with which we came, and verily we are truthful.'" Qur'an 12, 80, 82. Here the curtain falls, and we meet them again, not in Egypt or on the road, but before their father, having conveyed what they were instructed to say, though we do not hear them speak it. The curtain rises again to find their father addressing them. He said, "Nay, your souls have enticed you to something, but patience is beautiful. Perhaps God will bring them all to me. Verily, he is the knowing, the wise." Qur'an 12, 83. The curtain falls once more. Then we see another scene between Jacob and his sons, where his eyes have whitened from grief, and he remains in constant sorrow for Joseph, while his sons reproach him for this. And he turned away from them and said, "O my sorrow for Joseph!" And his eyes whitened from grief, for he was suppressing his anguish. They said, "By God, thou wilt not cease remembering Joseph until thou art broken or among the perished." He said, "I only complain of my anguish and grief to God, and I know from God what you do not know. O my sons, go and seek news of Joseph and his brother, and despair not of God's mercy. Verily none despairs of God's mercy except the disbelieving people." Qur'an 12, 84, 87. Here the curtain falls, and they journey on a path we know nothing of. When it rises again, we find them in Egypt, before Joseph. And when they entered upon him, they said, "O exalted one, hardship has touched us and our family, and we have brought but meagre merchandise. So fill for us the measure and be charitable to us. Verily God rewards the charitable." Qur'an 12, 88. Thus proceed the stories of the companions of the cave, Mary and Solomon, in the same manner, and we shall elaborate upon them in detail in the following section. The art of depiction in storytelling. At last, this title is dedicated to the fourth characteristic, the most vibrant and richly textured of the features inherent in storytelling, and the one most intimately connected to the theme of this book, the artistic depiction in the Qur'an. As we have previously stated, the Quranic expression approaches the narrative with the masterful brush of creative imagery, much like it renders the scenes and vistas it presents. Thus, the story transforms into an event unfolding before us, a living tableau in motion, rather than a mere tale recounted or a past incident recalled. Now, we affirm that this depiction within the narrative's scenes manifests in various hues. One hue shines forth in the potency of presentation and revival, another emerges in the evocation of emotions and inner stirrings, and yet another reveals itself in the delineation of characters. These hues are not detached from one another, rather one may predominate in certain moments, overshadowing the others, and thus it is named accordingly. Yet in truth all these artistic touches are interwoven and visible in every narrative scene. Here, an example may illuminate what words alone cannot fully convey. The narrative. We have previously reviewed the story of the owners of the garden, the scene of Abraham and Ishmael before the Kaaba, and the episode of Noah and his son amidst the deluge. All these are exemplars of the power of presentation and revival, to the extent that the reader might feel the scene is vividly present, as if witnessing and perceiving it, as we have elaborated. Now, we introduce a new example. Behold, we stand as witnesses to the companions of the cave, as they deliberate their course of action, after having been guided to God amidst a people steeped in polytheism. and we relate to you their story in truth. They were youths who believed in their Lord, and we increased them in guidance. And we strengthened their hearts when they stood up and said, Our Lord is the Lord of the heavens and the earth. Never will we invoke besides him any deity. We would have certainly spoken then an excessive transgression. Qur'an 18:13-14. These, our people, have taken besides him deities. Why do they not bring for worship of them a clear authority? And who is more unjust than one who invents about God a lie? And when you have withdrawn from them and that which they worship other than God, retreat to the cave. Your Lord will spread out for you of his mercy and will prepare for you from your affair facility. Qur'an 18:15-16. With this, the scene concludes, the curtain falls, or the episode breaks off in a manner reminiscent of the most innovative techniques discovered by theatre and cinema in the 20th century. When the curtain rises once more, we find them having carried out their resolve. Behold them now in the cave, as if seen with the very eye of certainty, for the mode of expression here leaves no room for doubt. And you see the sun when it rises inclining away from their cave on the right, and when it sets, passing away from them on the left, while they are lying within an open space thereof. Qur'an 18:17. Shall we call this the revival of a scene? Even modern theatre, with all its sophisticated lighting techniques, might struggle to portray this undulating motion. The movement of the sun as it veers away from the cave at dawn, casting no light upon it, and the very word used here mirrors its meaning, and passing them by at sunset without touching them. Cinema, with great effort, might capture this wondrous motion, which the words depict with astonishing ease. Then let us behold them within an open space thereof. Truly the words perform a miracle once again, conveying their posture and movement as if they come to life and stir before us in sequence. And you would think them awake while they are asleep, and we turn them to the right and to the left while their dog stretches his forelegs at the entrance. If you had looked at them, you would have turned from them in flight and been filled by them with terror. Qur'an 18:18. Thus the words undertake both depiction and motion with seamless grace in all these scenes, and suddenly life stirs within them. Let us look and listen. And similarly we awakened them that they might question one another. Said a speaker from among them, How long have you remained here? They said, We have remained a day, or part of a day. They said, Your Lord is most knowing of how long you remained. So send one of you with this silver coin of yours to the city, and let him look to which is the best of food, and bring you provision from it, and let him be cautious. And let no one be aware of you. Indeed, if they come to know of you, they will stone you, or return you to their religion, and never would you succeed then, ever. Qur'an 18:19-20. This is the third scene, or perhaps a continuation of the second. They have awakened, and their first inquiry is, How long have you remained? The response comes, We have remained a day, or part of a day. Yet we know they lingered far longer, for we are acquainted with the summary of their tale before its detailed unfolding. They, however, are hungry and hasty in their quest for certainty. Moreover, they are believers, and a mark of their faith is their declaration, Your Lord is most knowing of how long you remained. They are fearful their secret might be exposed, instructing their messenger to be discreet and not alert anyone, lest their people discover their refuge and stone them or force them back into their creed. We, however, know that nothing will turn them from their faith. Let us now follow this messenger in the third scene. But where is this scene? Here lies a gap left to the imagination. We find only that their affair was uncovered, and people stumbled upon them, though those people at that time were believers, not disbelievers. And thus we made the people stumble upon them, that they might know that the promise of God is truth, and that of the hour there is no doubt. Qur'an 18:21. Here the religious purpose of the story emerges, yet the artistic share is equally fulfilled. The imagination is free to ponder what transpired when their messenger departed and when their secret was unveiled. Another gap appears here as well. It seems they have passed away. Indeed, they have truly died, while the people outside the cave dispute and deliberate over their affair. On what faith did they stand? When they disputed among themselves about their affair and said, Construct over them a structure, Their Lord is most knowing about them. Said those who prevailed in the matter, we will surely take for ourselves over them a masjid. Qur'an, 1821. And here lies a third gap. Let the imagination envision this masjid over them. As for the people, once the matter concludes, they, as is their wont, exchange tales and debate over their number and the years that have passed over them, and they will say, they were 3, the 4th of them being their dog, and they will say, 5, the 6th of them being their dog, guessing at the unseen, and they will say, 7, and the 8th of them was their dog. Say, my Lord is most knowing of their number, none knows them except a few. So do not argue about them except with an obvious argument, and do not inquire about them among the speculators from anyone. Qur'an, 1822. Then the moment arrives for the familiar religious admonitions as we stand in the wake of a story of resurrection, divine power and reflection on the unseen. Here it is said, and never say of anything, indeed I will do that tomorrow, except when adding, if God wills. And remember your Lord when you forget and say, perhaps my Lord will guide me to what is nearer than this, to right conduct. Qur'an, 1823-24. A specific reason for this admonition is mentioned, tied to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, though its details do not concern us here. It is merely a general aspect of religious guidance woven into the folds and conclusions of narratives, at the most fitting psychological moment. And here lies a grand occasion. Finally, a definitive report is given regarding the duration of their stay, which is the crux of the story, while their number remains a secret with them. And they remained in their cave for 300 years and exceeded by 9. Say, God is most knowing of how long they remained. He has knowledge of the unseen of the heavens and the earth. How seeing is he and how hearing. They have not besides him any protector, and he shares not his legislation with anyone. And recite, O Muhammad, what has been revealed to you of the book of your Lord. There is no changer of his words, and never will you find in other than him a refuge. Qur'an, 1825-27. We have delved deeply into tracing all the characteristics of the story presented here. Undoubtedly, the power of presentation and revival stands as the most prominent trait across all narrative scenes. This hue defines them and predominates over the other shades. Now we turn to the second hue of depiction in storytelling, the portrayal and highlighting of emotions and inner stirrings. We have previously explored the story of the man with the 2 gardens and his companion who dialogues with him, as well as the tale of Moses with a man from among our servants whom we had given mercy from us. Both narratives depict a spectrum of emotions and bring them to the fore, alongside the sketching of characters and the revival of scenes. Now we add to these a third story in detail, the story of Mary at the birth of Jesus, and mention, O Muhammad, in the book, the story of Mary, when she withdrew from her family to a place toward the east, and she took, in seclusion from them, a screen. Qur'an, 1916-17. Here she is in her solitude, at peace in her seclusion, her consciousness enveloped by the serenity that cloaks a young maiden in her private sanctuary. Yet behold, she is struck by a sudden violent shock that shifts her perceptions to a distant realm, though it stems from the very state she is in. Then we sent to her our angel, and he represented himself to her as a well-proportioned man. She said, Indeed, I seek refuge in the most merciful from you, so leave me, if you should be fearing of God. Qur'an, 1917-18. It is the shudder of a chaste maiden, startled by the presence of a man in her solitude, seeking to awaken piety in his soul. If you should be fearing of God, while we know he is the trustworthy spirit, she perceives him only as a man. Here the imagination conjures the image of this pure, innocent girl, nurtured in a virtuous family tradition, raised with religious devotion under the care of Zechariah after she was vowed to God as a child. This is the first tremor. He said, I am only the messenger of your Lord to give you news of a pure boy. She said, How can I have a boy while no man has touched me, and I have not been unchaste? Qur'an, 1919-20. Let the imagination once more grasp the depth of her fear and shame as this strange man, whom she does not yet trust as a messenger of her Lord, for it could be the deceit of a predator exploiting her innocence, boldly speaks words that wound the modesty of a shy maiden, declaring his intent to grant her a son while they are alone in seclusion. This is the second tremor. Then the courage of a woman defending her honour surges within her. How can I have a boy while no man has touched me, and I have not been unchaste? With stark clarity and unveiled words she speaks, for they are alone, and the purpose of his sudden intrusion seems evident. She does not yet comprehend how he could grant her a son, and his claim to be a messenger of her Lord does little to ease the terror of the moment, for it might be a ruse, as we have said. Modesty avails her naught here. Candour is more fitting. He said, "Thus it will be. Your Lord says, 'It is easy for me, and we will make him a sign to the people and a mercy from us, and it is a matter already decreed.'" Qur'an 19:21. And then, what follows? Here lies a gap, one of the narrative's profound artistic voids, left for the imagination to weave as it wills. Then the story proceeds along its path, and we behold this poor virgin in another, more harrowing situation. So she conceived him, and she withdrew with him to a remote place, and the pains of childbirth drove her to the trunk of a palm tree. She said, "Oh, I wish I had died before this and been in oblivion forgotten." Qur'an 19:22-23. This is the third tremor. If in the first instance she faced her own sanctity, upbringing and morals in solitude, now she teeters on the brink of confronting society with scandal. She endures physical pain alongside psychological torment, the acute bodily agony that drove her to the trunk of a palm tree, alone and unaided, overwhelmed by the bewilderment of a virgin in her first labour, with no knowledge or support, when she cries, "Oh, I wish I had died before this and been in oblivion, forgotten." We can almost see her features, sense the turmoil of her thoughts, and touch the points of her pain. Then he called her from below her. "Do not grieve, your Lord has provided beneath you a stream, and shake toward you the trunk of the palm tree. It will drop upon you ripe fresh dates, so eat and drink and be contented. And if you see from among humanity anyone, say, 'Indeed I have vowed to the most merciful a fast, so I will not speak today to any man.'" Qur'an 19:24-26. This is the fourth tremor, the greatest astonishment. We can almost feel ourselves, like Mary, leaping to our feet in awe and wonder at this shock. A child newly born calls to her from beneath, easing her hardships and providing her sustenance. Indeed, it is the grandest tremor. We imagine her struck with prolonged astonishment and silence before she reaches out to shake the palm trunk, letting ripe dates fall to reassure her heart, at least, as she prepares to face her people. Yet here lies another gap, a bridge for the imagination to cross. Now let her find peace, and let the emotional tremors shift to others as she returns to her people, carrying him. So she brought him to her people, carrying him. They said, "Oh, Mary, you have certainly done a thing unprecedented. O sister of Aaron, your father was not a man of evil, nor was your mother unchaste." Qur'an 19:27-28. The shock loosens their tongues with accusations and mockery, addressing her as, "O sister of Aaron," a reference bearing irony, for such an event is unprecedented in this household. "Your father was not a man of evil, nor was your mother unchaste." She pointed to him. It seems she was at ease, anticipating the recurrence of the miracle, while they, gripped by astonishment and derision, question how a virgin confronts them with a child and audaciously points to him to explain her secret. They said, "How can we speak to one who is in the cradle, a child?" Qur'an 19:29. But behold the awaited miracle. He said, "Indeed, I am the servant of God. He has given me the scripture and made me a prophet, and he has made me blessed wherever I am, and has enjoined upon me prayer and zakah as long as I remain alive, and made me dutiful to my mother, and he has not made me a wretched tyrant. And peace is on me the day I was born, and the day I will die, and the day I am raised alive." Qur'an 19:30-33. Were it not that we have witnessed such wonders before, we might have stumbled back in terror, frozen in awe, or gaped in amazement. But having experienced this, let our eyes brim with tears of emotion, and let our hands rise in applause of admiration. In this moment, The curtain falls, eyes moist with triumph, and hands resound with acclaim. At this very juncture we hear in a tone of affirmation at the most opportune moment for conviction and acceptance. That is Jesus, the Son of Mary, the word of truth about which they are in dispute. It is not befitting for God to take a son. Exalted is he. When he decrees an affair, he only says to it, "Be," and it is. And indeed, God is my Lord and your Lord, so worship him. That is a straight path. Qur'an, 19:34-36. Here, the religious purpose shines forth, as do the narrative scenes. Yet, without doubt, the power of evoking and highlighting profound emotions and inner stirrings is paramount, and this hue defines the narrative, prevailing over the other shades. The delineation of characters in storytelling. Now we turn to the third hue of depiction in storytelling, which we treat separately, though it is integral to the others, the sketching and highlighting of characters. We have previously discussed the story of the man with the 2 gardens and his companion, as well as the tale of Moses and his mentor. In each, 2 prominent archetypes emerge. Examples of this hue of depiction abound in all Quranic narratives, for it is a defining trait of such storytelling, a purely artistic trait, and itself a purpose of unfettered artistic narration. Yet, the Quranic narrative, with its primary aim of religious invitation, also embraces this trait along its path, manifesting in all its stories. It crafts human archetypes from these characters, transcending the individual to embody the universal model. Let us briefly review some narratives in summary and elaborate on others in detail. Consider Moses. He is the archetype of the impulsive, passionate leader. Behold him, raised in Pharaoh's palace under his very gaze, growing into a strong youth. And he entered the city at a time of inattention by its people, and found therein 2 men fighting, one from his faction and one from among his enemy. And the one from his faction called for help to him against the one from his enemy, so Moses struck him and unintentionally killed him. Qur'an 28:15. Here, tribal zeal and emotional impulsiveness are evident. Yet this burst of passion soon subsides, and he turns inward, as is the wont of the passionate. He said, "This is from the work of Satan. Indeed, he is a manifest misleading enemy." He said, "My Lord, indeed I have wronged myself, so forgive me." And he forgave him. Indeed, he is the forgiving, the merciful. He said, "My Lord, for the favour you bestowed upon me, I will never be an assistant to the criminals." Qur'an 28:16-17. Thus he became fearful in the city, watchful, a vivid depiction of a familiar state. The anxious, wary figure expecting danger at every turn, a hallmark of the passionate temperament. Despite this, and despite his vow not to aid the wrongdoers, observe what he does next. He sees the one who sought his aid the previous day shouting for help against another. Moses says to him, "Indeed, you are an evident deviating man." Qur'an 28:18. Yet with his impulsiveness, his seeking of forgiveness, his remorse, his fear and his vigilance, were it not for someone reminding him of his deed, he might have forgotten in the heat of zeal and acted against the other man as he did the day before. But when he intended to strike the one who was an enemy to both of them, the man said, "O Moses, do you intend to kill me as you killed someone yesterday? You only want to be a tyrant in the land and do not want to be of the reformers." Qur'an 28:19. At that moment, a man came running from the farthest end of the city, advising him to flee, and so he departed, as we know. Let us leave him here to encounter him in a later phase of his life after 10 years. Perhaps he has calmed and become a man of gentle disposition and patient soul. But no, behold him called from the right side of the mount, "Throw down your staff." So he threw it down, and thereupon it was a serpent moving. Qur'an 27:10. No sooner does he see it than he leaps away, fleeing without looking back. He remains the same passionate youth, though now a man. Another might have feared, yes, but perhaps would have stepped back to contemplate this great marvel. Let us leave him for another interval, to see what time may do to temper his nerves. Verily, he triumphed over the sorcerers, delivered the children of Israel from bondage, and led them across the sea. Then he journeyed to the appointed meeting with his Lord upon Mount Sinai, and indeed he is a prophet. Yet behold, he posed a wondrous question to his Lord, saying, O my Lord, show me yourself that I may gaze upon you. The response came, You shall not see me, but look upon the mountain. If it remains steadfast in its place, then shall you see me. Qur'an 7, 143. Then occurred an event beyond the endurance of any human nerves, let alone those of Moses. When his Lord manifested his glory to the mountain, he reduced it to dust, and Moses fell down in a swoon. When he recovered, he exclaimed, Glory be to you! I turn to you in repentance, and I am the first of the believers. Qur'an 7, 143. A return marked by impetuosity and fervour. And soon thereafter he returned to find his people having fashioned for themselves a calf as a god. In his hands were the tablets upon which God had inscribed his revelation. He did not pause, nor did he hesitate. He cast down the tablets, seized his brother by the head, and dragged him toward himself. In a state of agitation he pulled at his brother's head and beard, heedless of any plea or word. His brother cried out, O son of my mother, do not seize me by my beard or by my head. I feared that you would say, You have caused division among the children of Israel and did not heed my word. Qur'an 20, 94. When Moses learned of the calf and was seized with righteous anger, he turned to the Samaritan, the one who had wrought this deed, and said with indignation, Go forth, for in this life it is decreed for you to say, No touch, and indeed you have an appointment you shall not evade. Look now upon your God, to which you remained devoted. We shall surely burn it and scatter its ashes into the sea. Qur'an 20, 97. Thus, with evident wrath and restless motion, he acted. Let us leave him for some years hence. His people wandered in the wilderness, and we reckon he had grown into an elder when he parted from them, and met the man who requested to accompany him, that he might teach him of the knowledge God had bestowed upon him. And we know that Moses could not endure in patience until the man revealed the hidden purpose of his actions, not once, nor twice, nor thrice. Thus they parted ways. Such is a singular and striking personality, a clear human archetype manifest in every stage of this narrative. A contrast. The personality of Moses and Abraham. In contrast to Moses stands Abraham, the epitome of serenity, forbearance and clemency. As it is said, indeed Abraham was forbearing, compassionate and oft returning to God. Qur'an 11:75. Behold, in the stillness of night he saw a star and said, This is my Lord. But when it set, he declared, I love not those that set. Then, seeing the moon rising in splendour, he said, This is my Lord. Yet when it too waned, he said, If my Lord does not guide me, I shall surely be among the people astray. And when he beheld the sun ascending in its glory, he exclaimed, This is my Lord, this is greater. But when it set, he proclaimed, O my people, I am free from what you associate with God. I have turned my face toward him who created the heavens and the earth, as one by nature upright, and I am not of those who associate partners with him. Qur'an 6:76, 79. His people disputed with him, and he responded, Do you dispute with me concerning God while he has guided me? I fear not what you associate with him, unless my Lord wills something. My Lord encompasses all things in knowledge. Will you not then remember? Qur'an 6:80. Having attained this certainty, he sought with kindness and tenderness to guide his father to the truth. In his youth he withdrew into contemplation, seeking his Lord. With the gentlest of words and the most loving of tones, he addressed him, O my father, why do you worship that which neither hears, nor sees, nor avails you in anything? O my father, to me has come knowledge that has not come to you. Follow me, and I will guide you to a straight path. O my father, do not worship Satan, for Satan is ever a rebel against the Most Merciful. O my father, I fear that a punishment from the Most Merciful may touch you, and you become a companion of Satan. Qur'an 1942:45. But his father rejected his words, spoke harshly to him, and threatened him, saying, Do you turn away from my gods, O Abraham? If you do not desist, I will surely stone you, so leave me for a long time. Qur'an 1946. Yet this violence did not sway Abraham from his noble courtesy, nor did it alter his affectionate nature. He did not turn away from his father in disdain, but said, Peace be upon you. I will seek forgiveness for you from my Lord. Indeed, he is ever gracious to me. I will withdraw from you and from what you invoke besides God, and I will call upon my Lord. Perhaps I shall not be, in calling upon my Lord, unblessed. Qur'an, 1947-48. And behold, he shattered their idols, perhaps the only act of force he undertook. Yet even this was driven by a greater compassion, hoping that his people might believe when they saw their gods broken into fragments, realizing they could not defend themselves from harm. And indeed they nearly believed, for they turned to themselves and said, "Indeed, you are the wrongdoers." Qur'an 21:64. But soon they returned to their folly and sought to burn him. Then we declared, "O fire, be coolness and safety for Abraham." Qur'an 21:69. He withdrew from them for a long while, save for the few who believed, among them his nephew Lot. In his old age and frailty God blessed him with Ishmael. Yet it came to pass that he was to distance his son and his mother from himself, though the Qur'an does not delve into the details of this trial. His paternal tenderness yearned for them, yet his faith in his Lord prevailed, and he left them near the sacred house. There he raised that humble, penitent cry, "Our Lord, I have settled some of my descendants in an uncultivated valley near your sacred house, our Lord, that they may establish prayer. So make the hearts of the people inclined toward them and provide for them from the fruits that they might be grateful." Qur'an 14:37. Then, as this child grew into a youth, Abraham saw in a dream that he was to sacrifice him. His profound religious faith overcame his deep paternal love, and he prepared to obey the divine indication. But God, in his mercy, spared him and ransomed his son with a great sacrifice. Thus the events and dialogues of this story unveil a personality of distinct features and clear traits. Indeed, Abraham was forbearing, compassionate, and oft returning to God. Qur'an 11:75. Joseph, the exemplar of prudence and wisdom. And then there is Joseph, the model of the conscious and discerning man. Behold, he faced the temptation of the wife of the nobleman, who sought to seduce him, yet he refused. For he dwelt in the house of a man who sheltered him, and thus he guarded himself against all places of peril, yet he nearly wavered. And she certainly desired him, and he desired her, had he not seen the proof of his Lord. Qur'an 12:24. Here emerges the woman in one of her most perilous states, driven by the surge of her primal instinct. They raced to the door, and she tore his shirt from behind. Then came the moment he dreaded, for they found her husband at the door. Her instinct swiftly found an answer. She accused the youth, saying, "What is the recompense of one who intended evil for your family?" Yet being a woman in love, she feared for his life and suggested a safer punishment, except that he be imprisoned or subjected to a painful chastisement. Qur'an 12:25. Joseph, the discerning and truthful, responded, "It was she who sought to seduce me." He bore witness with his torn shirt as evidence and found support among her own kin, for a witness from her family testified, "If his shirt is torn from the front, then she has told the truth, and he is of the liars. But if his shirt is torn from the back, then she has lied, and he is of the truthful." Qur'an 12:26-27. Thus Joseph was proven innocent. The women of the city gossiped about the affair, as women do in every time and place, for it was a tale that captured their interest and spread widely. Then the wife of the nobleman emerged once more. She invited them to a feast, and while they were engrossed in their meal, knives in hand, for they were a civilized people who ate with plates and utensils, she brought Joseph before them. They were struck with awe, cutting their hands in their astonishment, and exclaimed, "Perfect is God! This is not a man, this is none but a noble angel." Qur'an 12:31. Indeed, they were women, and she was a woman who knew how to silence other women. Yet the gossip did not cease, and the women of the city continued to speak. Then it seemed to them, after witnessing the signs, that they must imprison him for a time. Qur'an 12:35. In the prison, Joseph interpreted the dreams of two of the king's companions. When he discerned that one of them would be freed and return to his master's service, he did not forget to request, "Mention me to your Lord." Qur'an 12:42. But the cupbearer forgot, and Joseph remained in prison for several years until the king saw a vision that baffled his interpreters. Then the cupbearer remembered Joseph, sought him out to interpret the dream, and Joseph provided its meaning. The king summoned him. Here the prudent man emerged. He had entered prison unjustly, surrounded by rumors, and he feared that if released he might be returned to captivity as before. Seizing the opportune moment to secure his exoneration, he said, "Return to your lord and ask him what is the case of the women who cut their hands. Indeed, my lord is knowing of their plan." Qur'an 12:50. The king questioned them, and they spoke the truth. Even the wife of the nobleman sought to clear his name, for it seems she had aged. We surmise she committed her act in her 40s or beyond, at the culmination of her maturity. Adding the years of imprisonment, she would have been near 50. Thus there was no harm in unveiling the buried past. She declared, "Now the truth has become evident. It was I who sought to seduce him, and indeed he is of the truthful." Qur'an 12:51. In Joseph's response, the prudent and measured man shines forth, neither exaggerating nor overstepping, but considering all possibilities and precautions. He said, "That is so he may know that I did not betray him in his absence, and that God does not guide the plan of betrayers, and I do not acquit myself. Indeed, the soul is a persistent enjoiner of evil." Qur'an 12:52-53. When he perceived the king's favour and heard his words, "Indeed, you are today established and trusted in our presence." Qur'an 12:54. Joseph did not let the opportunity slip. He said, "Appoint me over the storehouses of the land. Indeed, I will be a knowing guardian." Qur'an 12:55. His request was granted under the most fitting circumstances. His conduct during the years of abundance and drought reveals a clear mastery of administration and economy, overseeing the sustenance of Egypt alone, and even the neighbouring lands afflicted by famine, for 14 years. They came to Egypt seeking bread and life for 7 years of scarcity. When his brothers arrived, he recognized them while they knew him not. He made their acquisition of their brother the price for their sustenance. When they brought their brother and he wished to detain him, he placed the drinking cup in his brother's saddlebag. Then had a crier proclaim, "O caravan, indeed you are thieves." Qur'an 12:70. When they denied the theft and requested a search, agreeing that whoever was found with the cup would be taken as recompense, his prudence shone forth. He began with their bags before his brothers, then extracted it from his brother's bag. He let them return without him, then they came back with their father, and he revealed himself to them, imparting this lesson after their ordeal. All these are the actions of a man of awareness and sagacity. We had wished to present the personalities of Adam and Iblis in similar detail, but we shall suffice with a summary, as another story awaits our detailed exposition. The personality of Adam in the Quranic narratives is the archetype of humanity, with all its constituents and characteristics. Among the most evident of these is the profound human weakness that encompasses all other frailties, the yearning for immortality. Iblis touched upon this very vulnerability, and Adam responded, as did Eve, when he said, "Shall I guide you to the tree of eternity and a kingdom that never decays?" Qur'an 20:120. The mortal human, ever eager for immortality, could not attain it as the devil promised, yet he persists, and will persist, in pursuing it through progeny, legacy, and imagination. If these avail him not, religion offers him the assurance of resurrection and a form of eternity. As for Iblis, his personality is that of the devil, and that suffices. And now we turn to a story most vivid in revealing personal traits, one that enters the realm of pure artistry while remaining wholly faithful to its religious purpose. It is the story of Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. Both are distinct personalities, the man and the woman, the prophet king and the queen. Behold how each emerges in clarity. He reviewed the birds and said, "Why do I not see the hoopoe, or is he among the absent? I will surely punish him with a severe punishment or slaughter him unless he brings me a clear excuse." Qur'an 27:20-21. This is the first scene portraying the resolute king, the just prophet, and the wise man. He is the king who inspects his subjects, angered by disobedience and absence without leave. Yet he is no tyrannical ruler, for the absent one may have a valid excuse. If so, it shall be considered. If not, the opportunity for punishment remains, whether severe chastisement or death. The hoopoe tarried not long and said, I have encompassed knowledge of what you have not encompassed, and I have come to you from Sheba with certain news. Indeed, I found there a woman ruling over them, and she has been given of all things, and she has a great throne. I found her and her people prostrating to the sun instead of God, and Satan has made their deeds pleasing to them and diverted them from his way, so they are not guided. Why do they not prostrate to God, who brings forth what is hidden within the heavens and the earth, and knows what you conceal and what you declare? God, there is no deity except him, Lord of the great throne. Qur'an 27, 22, 26. This is the second scene, the return of the absent one. Knowing the king's firmness and severity, he begins with a startling revelation to justify his absence. He speaks, ensuring the king's attention, I have encompassed what you have not encompassed, and I have come to you from Sheba with certain news. What king would not listen when a subject claims, I have encompassed what you have not? Then the absent one elaborates his report, sensing the king's attentiveness and interest. He expands on his tale, philosophizing as he denounces the people. Why do they not prostrate to God, who brings forth what is hidden within the heavens and the earth? Though he stands in the position of the accused, for the king has not yet responded, he hints at the existence of a God, Lord of the great throne, perhaps seeking to soften the king's heart with the awe of divine grandeur. Solomon replied, We will see whether you have told the truth or are of the liars. Go with this letter of mine and deliver it to them. Then turn away from them and see what answer they return. Qur'an 27, 27, 28. This is the latter part of the second scene, revealing the resolute and just king. The grand news did not sway him, nor did this excuse resolve the matter of the soldier who violated order. Yet the opportunity for verification remains, as befits the just prophet and the wise man. We, the onlookers, know naught of the letter's contents, for nothing of it was disclosed before reaching the queen. When it arrived, she revealed it herself, initiating the third scene. She said, O eminent ones, indeed to me has been delivered a noble letter. Indeed, it is from Solomon, and indeed it is in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, saying, Do not exalt yourselves against me, and come to me in submission. Qur'an 27, 29, 31. Behold the queen, folding the letter and turning to her advisers, saying, O eminent ones, advise me in my affair. I am not one to decide a matter until you are present with me. Qur'an 27, 32. As is the custom of military men in every age and place, they declared their readiness for war at any moment, lest they fail in their duty, while deferring the final decision to the supreme authority as discipline and obedience demand. They said, We are men of strength and of great military might, but the command is yours. So consider what you will command. Qur'an 27:33. Here emerges the woman from behind the queen, a woman who abhors war and destruction, who prefers the weapon of diplomacy and conciliation over that of force and confrontation, preparing in her heart to face the man without enmity or strife. She said, Indeed, kings, when they enter a city, they ruin it and render the honoured of its people humbled. And thus do they do. But indeed I will send to them a gift, and see with what reply the messengers will return. Qur'an 27, 34, 35. The curtain falls here only to rise again before Solomon. When the gift arrived, he said, Do you provide me with wealth? But what God has given me is better than what he has given you. Rather it is you who rejoice in your gift. Return to them, for we will surely come to them with soldiers that they will be powerless to encounter, and we will surely expel them therefrom in humiliation, and they will be debased. Qur'an 27, 36, 37. Now the messengers have been sent back with their gift. Let us leave them on their journey. Solomon, the prophet, is a king, and he is also a man. As a king, he knows from experience that this stern rejection will settle the matter with a queen who, as her gift suggests, does not desire hostility. She will likely answer his call by way of probability, if not certainty. Here awakens the man in Solomon who wishes to captivate the woman with his words and authority. Solomon, son of David, who was enchanted by a single ewe amidst 99, a reference to a Quranic narrative, now desires to bring the queen's throne before she arrives, and to prepare for her a palace of glass, though the story keeps the palace a secret, even from us, the onlookers, until the final scene with the queen. He said, "O eminent ones, which of you will bring me her throne before they come to me in submission?" An Ifrit from among the jinn said, "I will bring it to you before you rise from your place, and indeed I am for it strong and trustworthy." Qur'an 27:38, 39. Yet the religious aims do not permit the jinn to wield such power, even if they are of Solomon's retinue. Behold, a man among the believers, possessing knowledge from the book, surpassed the strength of that Ifrit. He said, "I will bring it to you before your glance returns to you." Qur'an 27:40. Here is a pause, as brief as the blink of an eye. Then, when he saw it placed before him, Solomon said, "This is from the favour of my Lord to test me whether I will be grateful or ungrateful, and whoever is grateful, his gratitude is only for the benefit of himself, and whoever is ungrateful, then indeed my Lord is free of need and generous." Qur'an 27:40. The prophet awoke within Solomon before this divine blessing realized through the hand of one of God's servants. Here Solomon turns to gratitude for the favour, fulfilling the religious purpose of the narrative. Then the man stirs within Solomon once more. He said, "Disguise for her throne. We will see whether she will be guided to truth, or will be of those who is not guided." Qur'an 27:41. The stage is set to receive the queen, and we hold our breath in anticipation of her arrival. When she came, it was said, "Is your throne like this?" She said, "It is as though it were it." Qur'an 27:42. And then what? It seems the queen had not yet submitted after this surprise. What she worshipped besides God had held her back, for she was from a disbelieving people. Here comes the second surprise for the queen, and for us with her. It was said to her, "Enter the palace." But when she saw it, she thought it was a body of water, and uncovered her shins to wade through. He said, "Indeed it is a palace whose floor is made smooth with glass." She said, "My lord, indeed I have wronged myself, and I submit with Solomon to God, the Lord of the worlds." Qur'an 27:44. And so was Bilqis, a woman in her fullness. She shunned war and destruction, employing instead subtlety and gentleness in place of confrontation and strife. She did not yield at the first encounter. The initial surprise passed without her surrender. Yet when the second astonishment dazzled her, and her innate instinct sensed that the preparation of such a surprise bespoke the man's care for her, she cast down her defences. She surrendered herself to the man who had captivated her and shown his deep concern, but only after the inherent caution of a woman's nature and the timeless hesitation of Eve's soul had been overcome. Here the curtain falls. From neither the religious nor the artistic perspective does the story offer more to the seeker, save perhaps for those who might weave additional artistic knots unrelated to the divine purpose or aligned with it. Indeed, it suffices for a religious tale, guided solely by faith, to reveal such psychological stirrings, to present human archetypes, to display them in this manner, and to arrange them with such grace. And with this exposition we conclude the chapter on storytelling in the Qur'an, within which lies ample scope for those who seek further elaboration. Human archetypes. In the course of expressing its varied religious aims, the Qur'an sketches dozens of human archetypes beyond the realm of its narratives. It draws them with ease, simplicity, and brevity, sometimes in a single phrase or two, until the archetype emerges through delicate strokes, springing to life as a vivid, eternal being, standing distinct with immortal traits. At times these archetypes embody the entirety of humankind. At others they represent recurring individuals. In both cases they are timeless models, unmistakable to humanity across every society and generation. These verses were revealed for specific occasions to depict real personal archetypes, yet the artistic miracle of their portrayal renders these models eternal, transcending time and place, surpassing centuries and generations. We shall now briefly review some of these archetypes, presented in the manner of the Qur'an itself. Some have been mentioned previously in the chapter on artistic depiction, and their rightful place was indeed there, as mere brushstrokes of the Creator's artistry and portrayal. However, due to their connection with narrative archetypes, we have chosen to bring them here from their prior context. 1. Among the human archetypes depicting the entirety of humankind, and when harm touches man, he calls upon us, whether lying on his side or sitting or standing. But when we remove his harm, he passes on as if he had never called upon us for a harm that touched him. Qur'an 10:12. In this swift archetype, all elements of psychological truth and artistic harmony converge. Such is humanity indeed. When affliction strikes and the pulse of life falters, man turns backward, recalling the supreme power and seeking refuge in it. Yet, when the affliction is lifted and life's obstacles are cleared, the driving vitality surges within him, and the impulses of life awaken. He forgets the answered plea, as if nothing had transpired the day before. Life is a force propelling forward, never glancing back except when a barrier halts its flow. The artistic harmony lies in the lingering depiction of supplication during distress. He calls upon us, whether lying on his side or sitting or standing, and then, in the swiftness upon relief, he passes on as if he had never called upon us for a harm that touched him. These two images precisely mirror the halting of a current before a barrier, where the pause may lengthen, but once the barrier is breached, the current surges forth in haste, as if it had never stopped at all. This archetype recurs often in the Qur'an, painted from diverse angles, converging at the core essence before diverging into myriad paths. Such is the case with, "And when we bestow favour upon man, he turns away and distances himself, but when evil touches him, he is full of despair." Qur'an 17:83. Or, "And if we let man taste mercy from us and then take it away from him, indeed he is despairing and ungrateful. But if we let him taste favour after harm has touched him, he will surely say, 'Evil has departed from me.' Indeed he is exultant and boastful." Qur'an 11:9-10. Or, "Indeed man was created anxious. When evil touches him, he is impatient, and when good touches him, he withholds it." Qur'an 17:19-21. And many similar verses weave through the folds of the Qur'an. Thus, this eternal archetype is portrayed from the manifold facets of the human soul and the contradictory circumstances of life, all converging ultimately at the profound psychological truth. Humanity, in its strength, however varied its manifestations, rushes forward, enamoured of power, responding to vitality in diverse ways, until a barrier, of whatever kind, arises, prompting varied backward glances. 2. Among the specific human archetypes, the frail creature of weak conviction, clinging to belief so long as it brings benefit, yet wavering and straying when harmed by it. An example is, "And of the people is he who worships Allah on an edge." Qur'an 22:11. And with slight variation, "And of the people is he who says, 'We believe in Allah,' but when he is harmed for the sake of Allah, he considers the persecution of people as if it were the punishment of Allah. But if victory comes from your Lord, they will surely say, 'Indeed, we were with you.'" Qur'an 29:10. 3. And of the people, those who pride themselves on truth when it stems from their own deeds, yet turn against it and deny it when it comes from another. And when a book from Allah came to them confirming that which was with them, although before they used to pray for victory against those who disbelieved, when there came to them that which they recognized, they disbelieved in it. Qur'an 2:89. Close to these are those who know naught but their own interest, seeking truth only when its benefit to them is unveiled. Such is their way and their field of action. And when they are called to Allah and His Messenger to judge between them, a party of them turns away. But if the right is theirs, they come to Him in submission. Qur'an 24:48-49. And of the people are those who recoil from truth, loathing to face it, for their souls harbour both obstinacy and weakness, obstinacy that repels truth, and weakness that shuns confrontation. And they argue with you about the truth after it has become clear, as if they were being driven toward death while they are looking on. Qur'an 8:6. 4. And some recoil from truth in this unique image. So what is the matter with them that they turn away from reminder, as if they were alarmed donkeys fleeing from a lion? Qur'an 74, 49, 51. It is a scene brimming with motion, inviting derision. 5. And how many archetypes do you see daily reciting, and if you saw them you would be amazed by their bodies, and if they spoke, you would listen to their words, as if they were propped up pieces of wood. Qur'an 63, 4. It is a masterful image, laced with biting mockery. 6. And those who do nothing yet love to be praised for what they have not done. Indeed, they are exceedingly numerous in every time and place. And how many dine at every table, pretending to be allies of every faction, claiming indispensability to all. Those who wait and watch you, then if you gain a victory from Allah, they say, "Were we not with you?" But if the disbelievers have a share, they say, "Did we not gain the upper hand over you and protect you from the believers?" Qur'an 4, 141. 7. And the archetype of astonishing obstinacy manifests in these two texts, previously cited in artistic portrayal. And if we opened to them a gate from the heaven, and they continued therein to ascend, they would say, "Our eyes have only been dazzled. Rather, we are a people affected by magic." Qur'an 15:14, 15. And even if we had sent down to you a written scripture on a page and they touched it with their hands, the disbelievers would say, "This is nothing but obvious magic." Qur'an 6, 7. 8. And the archetype of one who fears yet feels no shame. And if you could see when they are made to stand by the fire and will say, "Oh, would that we could be returned to life on earth, and not deny the signs of our Lord, and be among the believers." But what they concealed before has become apparent to them. And even if they were returned, they would return to that which they were forbidden. And indeed, they are liars. Qur'an 6:27, 28. 9. And the archetype of the weak hypocrite, unable to bear the burden of opinion, refusing to submit to truth, whose sole concern is to avoid facing evidence. And when a surah was revealed, some of them looked at others, saying, "Does anyone see you?" And then they dismissed themselves. Qur'an 9, 127. Indeed, you can almost see them now, slipping away in whispers. 10. And the archetype of feeble resolve and short ambition, accustomed to lagging behind and fabricating excuses. And if it had been an easy gain and a moderate trip, they would have followed you, but distant to them was the journey, and they will swear by Allah, "If we were able, we would have gone forth with you." They destroy themselves, and Allah knows that indeed they are liars. Qur'an 9:42. 11. And among the people is an archetype combining deception and heedlessness, believing himself clever while his essence brims with delusion. He performs deeds thinking to harm others, yet harms none but himself. And of the people are some who say, "We believe in Allah and the last day," but they are not believers. They think to deceive Allah and those who believe, but they deceive not except themselves, and perceive it not. Qur'an 2:8, 9. 12. Then do you not find this next type of people everywhere, in their arrogance, boastfulness and ignorance? And when it is said to them, "Do not cause corruption on the earth," they say, "We are but reformers." Unquestionably it is they who are the corrupters, but they perceive it not. Qur'an 2:11, 12. 13. And the archetype who desires life at any cost, seeking it however it may be, clinging to it even if it means accepting what ought not to be accepted. And you will surely find them the most greedy of people for life. Qur'an 2:96. This is expressed with disdain and belittlement, with scorn and diminution. 14. And those rigid in their adherence to the old as if they were fossilized relics. And when it is said to them, "Follow what Allah has revealed," they say, "Rather, we will follow that which we found our fathers doing." Even if their fathers understood nothing, nor were they guided. Qur'an 2, 170. 15. And the fragmented group, unable to unite on an opinion or honour a covenant. Is it not true that every time they took a covenant, a party of them threw it away? Qur'an 2, 100. 16. And those who argue about truth and falsehood in what they know and what they do not. Does not one's chest tighten at their presence everywhere? It is only those who argue about that which they have knowledge, so why do you argue about that which you have no knowledge? Qur'an 3, 66. Or, and among the people is he who disputes about Allah without knowledge or guidance or an enlightening book, turning aside from truth to mislead people from the way of Allah. Qur'an 22:8, 9. In this last description, a tangible image is drawn of the haughty debater's arrogance as he turns his neck and struts. 17. And those who hesitate to give or sacrifice in times of hardship, yet if the givers suffer harm, they praise their own prudence. And if the givers attain good as a reward for their struggle, these others regret and wish they had given. And among you are some who linger behind. If disaster strikes you, they say, Allah has favoured me in that I was not present with them. But if bounty comes to you from Allah, they surely say, as if there had never been between you and them any affection, Oh, I wish I had been with them so I could have attained a great attainment. Qur'an 4, 72, 73. 18. And a group of people whose inner selves contradict their outward appearance as if they were two beings in one. And among the people is he whose speech pleases you in worldly life, and he calls Allah to witness as to what is in his heart, yet he is the fiercest of opponents, and when he goes away, he strives throughout the land to cause corruption therein and destroy crops and animals, and Allah does not like corruption. Qur'an 2, 204, 205. 19. And those who do not know their Lord except at the hour of death when they repent. And it is not possible for one to die except by permission of Allah at a decree determined. And whoever desires the reward of this world, we will give him thereof, and whoever desires the reward of the hereafter, we will give him thereof, and we will reward the grateful. Qur'an 3, 145. Or rather, and repentance is not for those who do evil deeds until when death comes to one of them he says, Now I repent. Qur'an 4, 18, 20. And the dull-witted and closed-minded who hear yet seem not to hear, and among them are those who listen to you, but when they depart from you, they say to those who were given knowledge, What did he say just now? Qur'an 47, 16. Yet within humanity lies goodness, for it is not devoid of noble, courageous, generous, patient, and giving archetypes. 21. Among these are those to whom people said, Indeed, the people have gathered against you, so fear them. But it only increased them in faith, and they said, Sufficient for us is Allah, and he is the best disposer of affairs. Qur'an 3, 159. 22. And among them, for the poor who are restricted for the cause of Allah, unable to move about in the land. An ignorant person would think them self-sufficient because of their restraint, but you will know them by their characteristic sign. They do not ask people persistently. Qur'an 2, 273, 23. And among them, the believers are only those who, when Allah is mentioned, their hearts become fearful, and when his verses are recited to them, it increases them in faith, and upon their Lord they rely. Qur'an 8, 2. 24. And the servants of the Most Merciful, who walk upon the earth easily, and when the ignorant address them harshly, they say words of peace. Qur'an 25, 63, 25. And those who feed food, despite their love for it, to the needy, the orphan, and the captive. Indeed, we feed you only for the countenance of Allah. We wish not from you reward or gratitude. Qur'an 76, 9, 26. And a group of the patient ones, who, when disaster strikes them, say, Indeed, we belong to Allah, and indeed to him we will return. Qur'an 2, 156, 27. And likewise those who love those who emigrated to them, finding no need in their breasts for what they have been given, and giving preference over themselves, even though they are in privation. Qur'an 59, 9, 28. And a group who restrain anger and who pardon the people. Qur'an 3, 134. And their like in humanity are many. These archetypes we have recorded thus, scattered without order, as they are scattered through the folds of society in every time and place. The Quranic expression has rendered them vivid, unmistakable to the eye in this humanity that remains akin across the passage of ages. The emotional logic Islam faced, as every divine call does, denial, and it debated with those who opposed its message. Since the Qur'an is the book of guidance and the essence of this call, it contains much debate. How then did it engage in this discourse? What means did it employ, and what proofs did it choose? Before answering these queries, we must first consider the primary mission for which the Qur'an was revealed. It came to establish a monumental creed, the creed of monotheism, among a people who associated other gods with Allah. To them it was a matter of profound astonishment that someone should proclaim, Allah is one. Has he made the gods only one God? Indeed, this is a curious thing. And the elite among them departed, saying, Go and remain steadfast to your gods, for this is a thing intended. We have not heard of this in the latest religion. This is not but a fabrication. Qur'an 38, 5, 7. Today we may view this issue from a different perspective, perhaps smiling at the naivety evident in such words. Yet we must regard the matter as it stood in that era, when monotheism was met with such bewilderment. Not all whom the Qur'an confronted with its call were these simple polytheistic Arabs. There were also the people of the book, who resented the emergence of a new faith that would overshadow theirs, revealed to a man not of their own, even if this faith aligned with theirs in its foundation. And they used to pray for victory over those who disbelieved, but when there came to them that which they recognized, they disbelieved in it. Qur'an 2:89. It must be noted, too, that this alignment was in the essentials of faith, not in the beliefs of their adherents at that time. For these Jews said, Uzair is the son of Allah, and these Christians said, the Messiah is the son of Allah. Both groups claimed, we are the children of Allah and his beloved, or asserted, the fire will not touch us except for a few numbered days, as the Qur'an recounts in various contexts. Thus, for both groups alike, the mission of Islam was, in essence, to establish a new creed. Accordingly, the primary function of the Qur'an was to create this monumental creed of monotheism in its novel form. We call it a monumental creed, even if it seems self-evident to us today, for it is no easy task for a humanity that, since its infancy, has clung to diverse forces of nature and myriad phantoms of the unknown, intertwining its life with thousands of extraordinary phenomena and inner emotions, to abandon this profound dispersion in its conscience and hasten to a single God who reigns over all these forces. Indeed, Islam was not the first religion to call for monotheism, yet all religions faced immense hardship due to this call, just as Islam did. However, the monotheism to which Islam called was an abstract, absolute monotheism, delving deeper into abstraction than any before it, opposing the ingrained notions of embodiment and anthropomorphism present in prior monotheistic faiths. Thus the Qur'an's task was to establish this pure, abstract creed. The eternal abode of creed is the conscience and the heart, the seat of every belief, not merely religious ones. The nearest path to the conscience is intuition, and the closest to the heart is sensation. The intellect, in this realm, is but one of many portals, neither the widest, nor the truest, nor the nearest. Some today overvalue the intellect, dazzled by its fruits in inventions, manufactures, and discoveries. Even some simple-minded among the faithful are captivated by this allure, believing in it and attempting to bolster faith by aligning its tenets with the principles of rational logic or empirical science. I believe these individuals elevate the intellect to heights beyond its reach. The human mind is better suited to leave room for the unknown, to acknowledge its own limits. This is not merely a matter of religious sanctity, but of expanding psychological horizons and opening the gateways of knowledge. The rational, in the realm of intellect, and the tangible in scientific experience are not the entirety of the known in the realm of the soul. The human intellect, not merely the mind, is but one window among the soul's many. Should a person seal these openings within himself, he creates a constriction in his soul and a diminishment in his capacities, rendering him unfit to judge in these grand matters. Let the intellect manage the affairs of daily, tangible life or address issues pertinent to it. As for creed, it resides in its lofty sphere, accessible only to those who tread the path of intuition, guided by insight, opening their senses and hearts to receive the echoes and illuminations. The vast majority of believers in every faith and creed have trusted and continue to trust in intuition and insight. The scholars of theology in Islam over many centuries engaged in intellectual debates on the matters of monotheism, achieving little compared to what the Quranic logic accomplished in mere years. Let us now examine this intuitive, accessible logic. Its substance was always to touch upon intuition and awaken sensation, penetrating directly to insight and beyond to the heart. Its material comprised tangible scenes, visible events, vivid depictions, and illustrated destinies, as well as eternal, self-evident truths that the enlightened insight grasps and the sound disposition comprehends. Its method was the universal approach, portrayal and embodiment through imagination and concretization, as we have detailed in preceding chapters. Here we use concretization in its artistic sense, not its religious connotation, for Islam is the religion of abstraction and transcendence. This was the emotional logic with which the Qur'an debated and strove, ultimately prevailing in the struggle. In this logic, expressive words, illustrative phrases, vivid images, eloquent scenes, and numerous stories, all of which we have discussed, converged. All depictions of the day of resurrection, scenes of bliss and torment, fall within this logic that touches sensation, awakens imagination, reaches insight, stirs the heart, and prepares the soul for conviction and understanding. Beyond psychological and spiritual images, beyond numerous stories, beyond scenes of the resurrection and depictions of bliss and torment, the Qur'an also employed the path of illustrative debate in this emotional logic, to which we dedicate this chapter. Naturally, our concern in this study is not the subject of debate, but the mode of expression. The illustrative method it adopted is what renders it an element of our inquiry, for the artistic aspect of the Qur'an alone is our sole focus, and we concern ourselves not with other matters of discussion. The first challenge that confronted Islam, as we have mentioned, was the issue of divine unity, Tawhid, in the face of a community that rejected it with the fiercest denial, deeming it among the greatest of marvels and oddities. Let us then contemplate how Islam engaged with them on this intricate matter. It approached the issue with simplicity and ease, speaking directly to the innate perception and insight of the human soul, without the entanglement of verbose rhetoric or intellectual disputations. The Qur'an posed questions that stir the conscience. Or have they taken for themselves gods from the earth who can raise the dead? Had there been within the heavens and the earth gods besides Allah, they both would have been ruined. So exalted is Allah, Lord of the throne, above what they describe. He is not questioned about what he does, but they will be questioned. Or have they taken besides him gods, say, produce your proof? This is the message of those with me and the message of those before me. But most of them do not know the truth, so they are turning away. Qur'an 21:21-24. And again, Allah has not taken any son, nor has there ever been with him any deity. If there had been, then each deity would have taken what it created, and some of them would have sought to overcome others. Qur'an 23:91. Thus, with the simplicity of innate understanding, the Qur'an reveals a universe free of corruption in the heavens and the earth, displaying instead a meticulously ordered system governed by a single, all-powerful director, a being of sublime wisdom who inspires awe. It paints a vivid image of what would transpire if there were multiple gods, each deity withdrawing with its own creation, a scene so absurd as to evoke laughter. Imagine each faction of creation aligning with its own god, each deity departing with its followers. To where? We know not, yet the mere visualization of such chaos provokes mirth. Is this the outcome of a multiplicity of gods? And then what would these other supposed deities do? Here is the earth, and there are the heavens. Where are their traces, their effects, in either realm? The Qur'an challenges. Say, have you considered that which you invoke besides Allah? Show me what they have created of the earth, or have they partnership in the heavens? Bring me a scripture before this or any remnant of knowledge, if you should be truthful. Qur'an 46:4. Moreover, it presents the manifest signs of creation and the evident displays of divine power, perceived by the senses, comprehended by innate understanding, and contemplated by insightful hearts. Say, Praise be to Allah and peace upon his servants whom he has chosen. Is Allah better, or what they associate with him, or who created the heavens and the earth, and sent down for you rain from the sky, causing to grow thereby gardens of joyful beauty which you could not otherwise have grown the trees thereof? Is there a deity with Allah? No, but they are a people who ascribe equals, or who made the earth a stable ground, and placed within it rivers, and made for it firmly set mountains, and placed between the two seas a barrier. Is there a deity with Allah? No, but most of them do not know. Or who responds to the distressed when he calls upon him, and removes evil and makes you inheritors of the earth? Is there a deity with Allah? Little do you remember. Or who guides you through the darknesses of the land and sea, and who sends the winds as good tidings before his mercy? Is there a deity with Allah? High is Allah above whatever they associate with him. Or who originates creation and then repeats it, and who provides for you from the heaven and earth? Is there a deity with Allah? Say, produce your proof if you should be truthful. Qur'an 27:59, 64. Thus the spectacles of the earth and heavens, alongside the daily events that befall humanity, converge with the innate feelings that drive a person to seek the supreme power in times of distress. They unite in addressing the senses and imagination, touching the depths of insight and emotion, and embedding the creed of divine unity within the soul. Such themes abound in the Qur'an, reiterated with varied expressions, much like the recurring depictions of the day of resurrection and scenes of bliss and torment. All of these, in essence, constitute an emotive logic that falls within this profound domain. The second challenge was the concept of resurrection and the last day, confronting a people who declared, "There is nothing but our worldly life. We die and live, and we will not be resurrected." Qur'an 23:37. Indeed, they found the notion of resurrection even more astonishing than that of a single God, deeming whoever spoke of it to be mad, for only the deranged could utter such things. The disbelievers exclaimed, "Shall we direct you to a man who informs you that when you have disintegrated and become dust, you will indeed be in a new creation? Has he invented about Allah a lie, or is there in him madness?" Qur'an 34:7, 8. To such an extent did they find the concept of resurrection bizarre. So how did the Qur'an debate them on this extraordinary matter? It presented to them both the visible and hidden aspects of creation, elucidating the emergence of life on earth in general and in humanity in particular, so they might perceive that he who originated creation is fully capable of renewing it. Were we wearied by the first creation? Yet they are in confusion over a new creation. Qur'an 50:15. Through its familiar method of vivid depiction, the Qur'an displayed scenes of life on earth and within humanity. And man was killed. How disbelieving he is. From what substance did he create him? From a sperm drop he created him and then proportioned him. Then he eased the way for him. Then he causes his death and provides a grave for him. Then when he wills, he will resurrect him. Qur'an 80:17-22. It continued, "Let man look at his food, how we poured down water in torrents. Then we broke open the earth, splitting it with sprouts, and caused to grow within it grain and grapes and herbage and olive and palm trees, and gardens of dense shrubbery, and fruit and grass as provision for you and your livestock." Qur'an 80:24-32. Or again, "It is he who brings out the living from the dead and brings out the dead from the living, and who gives life to the earth after its lifelessness. And thus will you be brought out." Qur'an 30:19. "And of his signs is that he created you from dust. Then suddenly you were human beings dispersing throughout the earth. And of his signs is that he created for you from yourselves mates that you may find tranquility in them. And he placed between you affection and mercy. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who give thought. And of his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the diversity of your languages and your colours. Indeed, in that are signs for those of knowledge, and of his signs are your sleep by night and day, and your seeking of his bounty. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who listen, and of his signs is that he shows you the lightning for fear and aspiration. And he sends down rain from the sky, and gives life thereby to the earth after its lifelessness. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who use reason. Qur'an 30, 20, 24. Thus, time and again, the Qur'an presents familiar scenes, tangible or known, that meet their senses at every moment, confront their innate perception with every glance, connect with their lives and livelihoods, and touch their feelings and consciences. It directs them to these scenes as if they were entirely new. For indeed, the spectacles of nature are ever renewed to those who behold them with a sensitive heart and an open eye, without stirring the intellectual debates that often rely more on skill than on truth. At times it transcends the realm of intellect and senses altogether, connecting directly with the core of belief, where the soul encounters the unseen, finding in its mystery and remoteness from sense and mind a refuge and delight. Even in this, it chooses the path of imagery and visualization. Have you not considered that Allah is exalted by whoever is within the heavens and the earth and the birds with wings spread? Each has known his means of prayer and exalting, and Allah is knowing of what they do. Qur'an 24, 41. And the seven heavens and the earth and whatever is in them exalt him. And there is not a thing except that it exalts by his praise, but you do not understand their way of exalting. Qur'an 17:44. Those who carry the throne and those around it exalt with praise of their Lord and believe in him, and ask forgiveness for those who have believed, saying, Our Lord, you have encompassed all things in mercy and knowledge, so forgive those who have repented and followed your way, and protect them from the punishment of hellfire. Our Lord, and admit them to gardens of perpetual residence, which you have promised them, and whoever was righteous among their fathers, their spouses, and their offspring. Indeed, it is you who is the exalted in might, the wise, and protect them from the evil consequences. And he whom you protect from evil consequences that day, you will have given him mercy, and that is the great attainment. Qur'an 40, 7, 9. Thus this imagery and visualization instill in the soul a sense of awe before the unseen, and a subtle pleasure as it wanders in that hidden realm where those who carry the throne and those around it exalt with praise of their Lord, and seek forgiveness for the believers, and where the seven heavens and the earth and whatever is in them exalt him. Sometimes the unseen is not so distant. It may be tangible yet unknown, stirring the conscience, affirming the cosmic power and filling the soul with faith. Indeed, from Allah nothing is hidden in the earth nor in the heaven. It is He who forms you in the wombs, however He wills. Qur'an 3, 5, 6. This is evidence of His all-encompassing knowledge, an emotive proof rooted in reality, not taxing the mind to grasp or rationalize it. In a broader scope and with more splendid imagery it declares, And with him are the keys of the unseen, none knows them except him, and he knows what is on the land and in the sea. Not a leaf falls but that he knows it, and no grain is there within the darknesses of the earth, and no moist or dry thing but that it is in a clear record. Qur'an 6:59. These few words express with awe-inspiring power the vastness of divine knowledge, chosen with the most eloquent terms and evocative phrases. It is not merely a statement of precise, comprehensive knowledge when it says, Not a leaf falls, but that he knows it, and no grain is there within the darknesses of the earth, nor anything moist or dry. Rather, it is a stunning visual image. The imagination soars across the horizons of the world and its mysteries, tracing the falling leaves and hidden grains, all enveloped by Allah's knowledge in their secrets and hideaways. Then it returns to the soul, flooding it with reverence and awe, directing it to Allah, whose knowledge encompasses all mysteries and horizons. This is the emotive logic, the visual argumentation. How far removed it is from the intellectual debates in which theologians indulged and immersed themselves for centuries. Consider, as an example, a moment of intellectual disputation far from the Quranic approach. When the Qur'an stated, Indeed, you and what you worship other than Allah are the fuel of hell. You will be entering it, Qur'an 21:98, or something akin to it. The polytheists among the Arabs seized upon this as an opportunity for cheap intellectual wrangling, thinking to confound Muhammad and the people of the book. They asked, "And what of Jesus, son of Mary? There are those among your people who deify him. Will he too enter hell?" The wise response came, "They did not present the comparison except for mere argument, but they are a people prone to dispute." Qur'an 43:58. This is an instance of intellectual logic, valid from the perspective of logical rules, but how distant it is from sound reasoning and simple natural truth. Intellectual logic, had the Qur'an pursued it, would have led nowhere, not because the truths it contains cannot be established by such logic, but because faith is not birthed by such debate. Faith always resides on a higher plane than these realms. It is no flaw in faith that the role of the mind within it is limited, for the mind is but a small, finite faculty, tethered to the mundane, not the eternal. The Qur'an touched the conscience and followed the path of visualization, achieving its purpose through both its content and method, harmonizing the religious aim with artistic expression in the nearest and most elevated way. The Quranic method. From all the preceding discussions, it becomes clear to us that the Qur'an adopts a unified method in addressing all its purposes alike, even in its mode of vivid, personifying expression. It employs this in presenting arguments and debates through visualization and embodiment. Let us now evaluate this method from the perspective of it being an artistic mode of expression, for that is the scope of our inquiry in this book. The religious objectives the Qur'an came to fulfill, along with the divine and legislative themes it addresses, are not our primary concern here. If some of these topics have been mentioned in passing within the preceding chapters, it is only to examine how the Qur'an approached them and the manner in which it expressed them. Some, when contemplating these topics and beholding their precision, grandeur, suitability, flexibility, comprehensiveness and universality, consider them the Qur'an's greatest distinction, believing its mode of expression to be subordinate to them, and that its inimitability lies entirely within them. Others distinguish between the meanings and the mode of delivery, discussing the Qur'an's inimitability in each separately. We, however, wish to assert that the method of expression adopted by the Qur'an is what has illuminated these purposes and topics. It is equal to them in merit, and no reasonable person would imagine otherwise. This does not lead us back to the fruitless debates over word and meaning that have consumed Arab critics since Al-Jahiz first raised them, debates followed by Ibn Qutayba, Qudama, Abu Hilal al-Askari and others, whether in agreement or opposition. We believe that Abdul Qahir reached a decisive opinion in his Dalal al-Ijaz, concluding that discussion should not revolve around the word in isolation as mere vocabulary, but rather in terms of its signification. Nor should the meaning be discussed merely as a thought in the mind, but as it is represented through words. The meaning is defined by the structure in which it is conveyed, so two different structures cannot fully convey the same meaning. Abdul Qahir did not phrase this issue with such brevity. We are translating his thought. Otherwise, he elaborated on it in a book we cannot fully cite here, nor quote excerpts from, as we did at the beginning of this work in his complex style. Yet his great merit lies in establishing this principle. Had he taken one further step in articulating it decisively, he would have reached the pinnacle of literary criticism. We say on his behalf, the mode of expression is decisive in portraying the meaning. Whenever two methods of expressing a single meaning differ, the image of that meaning in the soul and mind differs accordingly. Thus, meanings and modes of expression are inseparably linked, and it is no longer permissible to discuss meanings and words in isolation. A single meaning will only manifest in a single form. If the form changes, the meaning shifts proportionally. The general intellectual meaning may remain unaffected in its essence, but its image in the soul and mind alters, and it is this image that matters in art, for artistic expression aims at impact. If the resulting effect differs, the conveyed meaning is undoubtedly altered. From this exposition, we arrive at the excellence of the Qur'an's visual method. It is this method that has given the meanings, purposes and topics their form as we perceive them. In this form, they are distinct from any other. As we have previously stated, we wish to further clarify this issue with examples, though they are scattered throughout the book and commented upon in their respective places, highlighting the merit of the Quranic method. Yet here, in this final summary, we have many examples to draw upon. The primary characteristic of Quranic expression is its adherence to the visualization of intellectual meanings and psychological states, presenting them in vivid images and following the method of depicting natural scenes, past events, narrated stories, allegorical tales, scenes of the day of resurrection, images of bliss and torment, and human exemplars, as if they are all present and manifest through sensory imagination. What then is the superiority of this method over another that conveys meanings and psychological states in their abstract intellectual form, narrates events and stories as mere accounts, and describes scenes and vistas verbally rather than through vivid visualization? To illustrate this superiority, it suffices to imagine these meanings in their abstract form and then to envision them in their personified, vivid form. In the first method, meanings address only the mind and consciousness, stripped of their beautiful shades. In the second, they address the senses and emotions, reaching the soul through various channels, through the senses via visualization, through emotion via the senses, and through the conscience stirred by echoes and lights. The mind becomes but one of many pathways to the soul, not its sole conduit. This method undoubtedly holds merit in conveying any creed, but we consider it here purely from an artistic perspective. Its significance in this regard is profound, for the primary function of art is to evoke emotional responses, to spread aesthetic pleasure through this evocation, to awaken latent life through these emotions, and to nourish the imagination with images to achieve all this. The method of visualization and personification ensures all these for beautiful art. Consider the following examples beyond those already cited. First, the concept of intense aversion to the call of faith may be conveyed in its abstract form as, "They recoil with the utmost aversion from the call to faith." The mind alone contemplates the notion of aversion in cold stillness. Then it is conveyed in this astonishing image, "So what is the matter with them that they turn away from admonition as if they were alarmed donkeys fleeing from a lion?" Qur'an 74, 49, 51. Here, alongside the mind, the sense of sight, the faculty of imagination, the emotion of mockery, and the feeling of beauty all participate. There is mockery of those who flee like wild donkeys, not for any reason, but because they are called to faith. There is beauty in the movement of the image as the imagination contemplates it within a natural frame, where these donkeys scatter, pursued by a fearsome lion. The expression here carries shades that expand its emotional scope, if such a term may be used. Second, the incapacity of the deities worshipped by the Arabs besides Allah can be expressed in several abstract intellectual statements, such as, "What you worship besides Allah is utterly incapable of creating even the most insignificant thing." The meaning reaches the mind, bare and dull, but the visual expression conveys it in this form. Indeed, those you invoke besides Allah will never create a fly, even if they gather together for that purpose. And if the fly should steal away from them, a tiny thing, they could not recover it from him. Weak are the pursuer and pursued. Qur'an 22:73. Thus, the meaning becomes vivid and prominent in these successive dynamic images. They will never create a fly, a first degree, even if they gathered together for that purpose, a second. And if the fly should steal away from them, a tiny thing, they could not recover it, a third. Do you see the depiction of abject weakness and the gradation in portraying it, evoking in the soul a sharp mockery and humiliating disdain? Yet is this exaggeration? Is there hyperbole in this rhetoric? Not at all. This is a simple, tangible truth. These deities cannot create a fly, even if they unite for it. A fly is small and insignificant, yet the miracle of its creation is akin to the miracle of creating a camel or an elephant. It is the miracle of life itself, where the grand and the minute are equal. The miracle is not merely in creating vast beings or minute specks. It is in the essence of life. The artistic genius here lies in presenting this truth in a form that casts shades of weakness through the creation of the most trivial thing. The captivating beauty lies in the shadows cast by the content of the image, in the imagined movement of attempting creation, uniting for it, and then pursuing the fly to reclaim what it stole, while they and their followers remain powerless to recover it. Finally, the state of allies disowning one another in the face of the terror of the day of resurrection may be expressed in an abstract form as: the close companions renounced each other, allies turned against allies, and leaders abandoned their followers upon witnessing the horror of the day of judgment. This is among the most precise expressions that reconcile with the mind. Yet how far is this intellectual expression from the vibrant portrayal that follows? And they will come out before Allah all together. And the weak will say to those who were arrogant, "Indeed we were your followers, so can you avail us anything against the punishment of Allah?" They will say, "If Allah had guided us, we would have guided you. It is all the same for us whether we show intolerance or are patient. There is for us no place of escape." And Satan will say when the matter has been concluded, "Indeed, Allah had promised you the promise of truth. And I promised you, but I betrayed you. But I had no authority over you except that I invited you. And you responded to me. So do not blame me, but blame yourselves. I cannot be called to your aid, nor can you be called to my aid. Indeed, I deny your association of me with Allah before. Indeed, for the wrongdoers is a painful punishment." Qur'an 14:21-22. In this contemplative reflection, the imagination conjures a vivid scene of three distinct groups: the weak, who have ever been mere appendages to the powerful, lingering still in their frailty, their minds stunted, their spirits broken. They turn to those who once lorded over the earth with arrogance, pleading for deliverance from their plight, reproaching them for leading them astray in life, a behaviour consistent with their feeble nature and well-known infirmity. Then there are the arrogant ones whose pride has been humbled, now facing their inevitable fate. They turn their chests away from these weaklings who, despite witnessing their own degradation and torment, still beg for salvation. A salvation these fallen masters cannot grant even to themselves. Nor can they recall the crime of their seduction, for such remembrance avails nothing now. In weariness and frustration they merely retort, "Had God guided us, we would have guided you." Qur'an 14:21. And then there is Satan, embodying all the cunning, deceit, insolence and audacity of his character, the very essence of trickery and devilry. Only now does he confess to his followers that his promise was true, yet he promised and failed them. He wounds them with his words, causing them pain, while washing his hands of their consequences. "I had no authority over you except that I called you and you responded to me. So do not blame me, but blame yourselves." Qur'an 14:22. And in his brazenness he goes further, declaring, "Indeed I disbelieve in what you associated with me before." Truly, he is a devil indeed. This scene is a masterpiece of depiction, portraying a unique moment where the follower abandons the leader and the leader disowns the follower, a moment where neither clinging nor forsaking holds meaning. Yet it is the innate nature of each group that lays bare before the majestic sovereign. Satan here remains true to himself and to the image the Qur'an paints of him, for how could he be a devil without such manipulation, insolence and denial? Thus these echoes and shadows resonate within the soul, conveyed through vivid, tangible expression. Where then does mere rhetoric stand in comparison to this artistic portrayal? It is said that the deeds of those who disbelieve hold no weight, no reckoning. They deceive themselves in thinking them of worth, or they remain lost in perpetual misguidance with no escape and no guide. Such a notion may settle in the mind as a mere abstraction, resting there in stillness. Yet it comes alive, stirring the senses and igniting the imagination when presented in this vivid imagery. And those who disbelieve, their deeds are like a mirage in a desert, which the thirsty one supposes to be water, until when he comes to it he finds it nothing. But he finds God with him, who will pay him his account in full. And God is swift in reckoning. Qur'an 24:39. Or, like darknesses in a deep sea, covered by waves above which are clouds, darknesses, some above others, When one puts out his hand, he can hardly see it. And he to whom God has not granted light, for him there is no light. Qur'an 24:40. Here are enchanting artistic images imbued with the spirit of storytelling and powerful evocation. They call for the brush of a creative genius to paint them in colours, or the vigilant lens to capture them in motion. Yet, where is the brush and where is the lens that can truly render these darknesses? In a deep sea, covered by waves, above which are clouds, darknesses, some above others. When one puts out his hand, he can hardly see it. Qur'an 24:40. Or depict the thirsty traveller pursuing a mirage, until when he comes to it he finds it nothing, but he finds God with him, in a sudden astonishing moment swiftly seizing him. Who will pay him his account in full? Qur'an 24:39. If we mention the religious purpose for which these images are crafted, let us also recall the delightful artistic pleasure in this living, beautiful portrayal. From this same realm emerges the depiction of misguidance after guidance and the futility of effort wasted in vain through a succession of living images. Those are the ones who have purchased error in exchange for guidance, so their transaction has brought no profit, nor were they guided. Qur'an 2:16. Their example is that of one who kindled a fire, but when it illuminated what was around him, God took away their light and left them in darknesses so they could not see. Deaf, dumb and blind, they will not return to the path. Qur'an 2:17-18. Or, like a rainstorm from the sky within which is darkness, thunder and lightning, they put their fingers in their ears against the thunderclaps in dread of death. But God encompasses the disbelievers. The lightning almost snatches away their sight. Every time it lights the way for them, they walk therein. But when darkness comes over them, they stand still. And if God had willed, he could have taken away their hearing and their sight. Indeed, God is over all things competent. Qur'an 2:19-20. Here is a procession of successive images on a moving reel. These people kindled a fire and it illuminated. Then suddenly God extinguished their light and darkness enveloped them. Or, behold the storm, a rainstorm from the sky within which is darkness, thunder and lightning. They are terrified, anticipating the thunderbolt, fearing death, plugging their ears with their fingers. A futile gesture, yet instinctive in such a moment. The lightning nearly blinds them, yet it briefly lights their path, and they take a step forward. Then it vanishes and they stand still, unsure of their next move. If a cinematic lens captured such a scene with all its motion and sequence, it would be a triumph of artistry. How much more so when these scenes are recorded by words, lacking not a single motion that a camera could capture. Nay, they offer the soul a sweeter delight, leaving room for the imagination to paint and erase, to craft movements and shadows, and to witness them. The soul surges, the emotions stir, the heart quickens its beats under the influence of what? Under the influence of mere words. To complete this discourse on the Qur'an's artistic mode of expression, let us summarize what has been scattered across various sections of this book regarding the vitality that expression brings to imagery, a defining trait that shapes the nature and level of this portrayal. The abstract concepts and intangible states are not merely replaced by images. Rather, they are chosen as living images, measured by living standards, and pass through a living medium. The terror of the hour of resurrection is depicted through the days of nursing mothers forgetting their infants, pregnant women casting off their burdens, and the staggering of the intoxicated who are not truly drunk. Qur'an 22:2. It is measured by the impact of this terror on human souls, not by abstract words or descriptions. Or it is portrayed in a person's flight from his brother, mother, father and clan that shelters him, where every person that day will have enough concern to make him indifferent to others. Qur'an 80:34-37. It is gauged by its effect on the human soul, not by other descriptive measures. When inanimate objects partake in depicting this terror, they are imbued with life or paired with the living. On the day the earth and the mountains will convulse, and the mountains will become a heap of sand pouring down. Qur'an 73:14. They are alive, trembling like humans. Or, how will you protect yourselves if you disbelieve on a day that will make children white-haired? The heaven will break apart therefrom. Qur'an 73:17-18. the rent. Heaven stands beside children turned grey with terror. The terror of the deluge is portrayed in nature, and alongside it in a father and his son, one saved in the ark, anguished for his child, while the other is swept away by the flood, where there is no protector today from the decree of God except for whom he gives mercy. Qur'an 11:43. Here the terror in the human soul almost surpasses that in nature. While the waves were like mountains, Qur'an 11:42, the waves in the scene are but a frame for the psychological terror that severs the bond between father and son, a bond shattered by these horrors. The agonies of severe torment in the hereafter appear through human cries, casting their shadow through expression, and they will call, O Malik, let your Lord put an end to us. He will say, indeed you will remain. Qur'an 43:77. The stings of shame on that day are not described in mere words, but emerge from a living human context. And if you could see when they are made to stand before their Lord, he will say, is this not the truth? They will say, yes, by our Lord. He will then say, so taste the punishment for having disbelieved. Qur'an 6:30. The cries of regret are voiced by a human tongue, lamenting after the time has passed. And the day the wrongdoer will bite on his hands in regret, he will say, oh, I wish I had taken with the messenger away. Oh, woe to me, I wish I had not taken that one as a friend. Qur'an 25:27, 28. The seeping of faith is seen through a human soul in the story of Abraham. When the night covered him, he saw a star. He said, this is my Lord. But when it set, he said, I like not those that set. Qur'an 6:76. The call to strive in the path of God comes through depicting the stance of believers and disbelievers, and do not weaken in pursuit of the enemy. If you should be suffering, so are they suffering as you are suffering, but you expect from God that which they expect not. Qur'an 4:104. This portrayal decisively distinguishes between the realities of the two positions in a few words, measuring the differences by the souls of the two groups and what awaits them. We return not to a mere review of the images we have explored across various chapters. This much suffices to elucidate the nature of Quranic imagery and to illuminate the meaning of vitality in this portrayal, a vitality that transfers the impression from the senses to the depths of the soul. For it moves from a living being to a living being, in a living medium, penetrating the depths of conscience through expression and imagery. A third hallmark of Quranic expression emerges. This creative brush touches nothing inanimate without infusing it with life, nor does it present the familiar without rendering it anew. Such is the power of a mighty force, a wondrous miracle akin to the miracles of life itself. The morning, a familiar and oft-repeated scene, becomes in Quranic expression a living, novel sight never before beheld by any eyes. By the morning when it breathes, Qur'an 81:18. The night, a known span of time, transforms in Quranic expression. By the night when it covers, Qur'an 92:1, as it pursues the day in a mighty race. He covers the night with the day, another night chasing it rapidly. Qur'an 7:54. The shadow, a phenomenon seen and known, becomes in Quranic expression a sentient entity with agency, and a shade of black smoke, neither cool nor pleasant. Qur'an 56, 43, 44. The wall, a rigid structure like a lifeless boulder, feels and wills in Quranic expression. And they found therein a wall about to collapse, so he set it straight. Qur'an 18:77. The bird, a living yet commonplace creature, scarcely draws human attention, yet in Quranic expression it becomes a breathtaking scene that stirs the heart. Have they not seen the birds above them with wings outspread and sometimes folded in? None holds them aloft except the most merciful. Qur'an 67:19. The earth and the heavens, the sun and the moon, the mountains and valleys, the thriving dwellings and crumbling ruins, the plants and animals, the trees and branches, all are alive, or they are scenes addressing the living. There is no lifeless or dead thing among these entities and objects. Such is the way of the Qur'an, a unique art standing alone before meanings and purposes. In its lofty horizon, it is a match for those meanings, a twin to those purposes. The third edition of this book. 7 years ago, the first edition of this book was published. I thank God for its success, as it was warmly received by literary, scholarly and religious circles alike. If this reception signifies anything, it is that religion does not obstruct artistic and scientific inquiries that approach its sanctities with unfettered freedom. It also shows that artistic and scientific studies do not clash with religion or tarnish it when pursued with sincere intent, free from pretense and affectation. Moreover, the freedom of thought does not inevitably mean alienation from religion, as some imitators of so-called liberation might assume, observing the rift between religion, art and science in Europe due to specific historical circumstances unique to that region, and then transplanting this rift into the Islamic world, where no such estrangement between religion, science and art has ever existed in the annals of history. I find it important to record this phenomenon here on the occasion of the 3rd edition of this book. Another phenomenon I wish to note pertains to the method of imagery and expression. Is it the primary principle in the Qur'an's style? I have addressed this question in the introduction to my book, Scenes of Resurrection in the Qur'an, with these words. This matter is supported by precise enumeration of Quranic texts. The stories, scenes of resurrection, human archetypes, emotional reasoning in the Qur'an, along with the depiction of psychological states, the concretization of abstract concepts, and the representation of certain events contemporaneous with the prophetic mission, collectively constitute, by approximation, more than 3/4 of the Qur'an in terms of quantity. All of these employ the method of imagery in expression. Excluded from this method are only the sections on legislation, some areas of debate, and a few other purposes that necessitate a purely intellectual, abstract mode of statement. These are confined to roughly 1/4 of the Qur'an. Thus, there is no exaggeration in stating that imagery is the preferred tool in the Qur'an's style. If God grants me success to publish the subsequent volumes of this series, the library of the Qur'an, namely, the story between the Torah and the Qur'an, human archetypes in the Qur'an, emotional reasoning in the Qur'an, and artistic modes of presentation in the Qur'an, readers will find the evidence of this assertion in their hands, and their consciences will rest assured of it, as mine has. It brings me joy to know that this book has served as an awakening to the method of imagery in Quranic expression, enabling many students of the Qur'an and teachers in schools to discern the artistic imagery in numerous places not mentioned in my book. They have found in it a pure artistic beauty, which they extract, appreciate with their sensibilities and apply to poetry and prose outside the Qur'an. It is no small matter for a writer to feel that the method he has discovered for perceiving artistic beauty has become the possession of many. It is a spiritual joy, and I express it openly as a gratitude for God's blessings. On this occasion, I find it necessary to offer a clarification that must be stated, especially since the term art has begun to be misused, misunderstood or misinterpreted in the context of the Qur'an. I confess that when I chose the title Artistic Imagery in the Qur'an for this book 7 years ago, it held in my mind but one meaning: the beauty of presentation, the harmony of delivery, and the brilliance of execution. It never crossed my mind that artistic in relation to the Qur'an could imply something fabricated, invented, or based solely on imagination. My long study of the Qur'an has never led me to such an understanding or interpretation. I proclaim this truth openly, along with the assertion that I have not submitted to any religious dogma that shackles my thought from understanding. Rather, it is my respect for the human intellect, and my refusal to belittle it, that compels me not to overstep its limits into realms of the unknown, for which I have no evidence. I am astonished. Why must the term artistic inevitably veer toward fabricated imagination, baseless innovation, or invention that defies reason? Why? Cannot truths and realities be presented in an artistic manner and a scientific manner, retaining in both cases their essential qualities of truth and reality? Is it because Homer crafted his Iliad and Odyssey from myths? Is it because writers of novels, short stories and plays in Europe did not always adhere to factual events in their unbridled imagination? That is indeed art, but it is not all of art. Truth can be presented in a fully artistic manner, and it is not difficult to envision this once we liberate ourselves, even for a moment, from the translated mentality in which we live. Once we detach ourselves from purely Western models and view terminology with an objective, comprehensive perspective, the liberation of the mind does not necessitate aggression, presumption, or excess. Let us strip the Qur'an of all religious sanctity and regard it purely as a historical source. What do we find? We find that we possess no other book, no other historical artifact in the entirety of human history, for which the means of scientific verification have been as abundantly available as they are for this book. It is self-evident that, in proving or disproving the events narrated in the Qur'an, we have only two means at our disposal, one of which is not definitive and lacks the evidential strength of the Qur'an. One of these means is other historical sources. If we strip the Qur'an of its sanctity, as I have suggested, it remains, as a historical text, a stronger authority from a purely scientific perspective than any other historical reference in existence. The narrator of this book is Muhammad, son of Abdullah, a man whose honesty is acknowledged by his adversaries, both ancient and modern, with only a few biased liars dissenting. This book was compiled through a scientific method beyond reproach, even acknowledged by Orientalists whom some, disinclined to believe in religions, hold in esteem. Such scientific verification has not been available for any other book, whether sacred, historical, or archaeological. Other sacred texts have long intervals between the lives of their originators and the era of their documentation, and they were not transmitted with the same chain of narration as the Qur'an. Historical texts and artifacts do not rise above the level of conjecture, and there is not a single historical event in human history deemed absolutely certain by purely scientific standards. Thus, it is unjust to judge the Qur'an as a purely historical text against any other historical book or source that lacks the evidential strength of the Qur'an. The other means at our disposal is reason. I do not hesitate to declare that respect for human reason itself demands that it make room for the unknown and account for the unseen, not through religious faith, but through rational thought. Human reason loses its dignity when it claims to know everything, while it does not even know itself or comprehend how it perceives what it perceives. This is not a denial of human thought or its freedom, rather it is respect for this thought by recognizing its capacity and scope. If religious authorities in Europe, not religion itself, obstructed the freedom of scientific inquiry, even in the material realm, leading to a profound enmity between thinkers and clergy, it is utterly unjust to transfer this conflict wholesale to the East and to Islam. The sole manifestation of intellectual freedom among us should not be aggression and recklessness without foundation, save for a foundation that oversteps its bounds. This, in itself, is the deplorable imitation that reveals such freedom of thought to be but a fashion, mimicked like apes. In conclusion, I do not deny the difficulties I encountered while researching topics such as the story in the Qur'an and scenes of resurrection in the Qur'an. Are these presented as actual occurrences, or are some of them conveyed as images and parables? I stood long before these challenges, yet I found not a single historical or rational truth in my possession to which I could confidently attribute certainty or finality against which to judge the Qur'an. It was not permissible for me to judge the Qur'an based on conjecture or mere probability. In taking this stance, I was not a man of religion hindered by doctrine from free inquiry. Rather, I was a man of thought, respecting my intellect enough to refrain from blasphemy or fabrication. If another finds this truth by which to judge the Qur'an, I am ready to listen with calm and reassurance. Until such a truth emerges, it would be frivolous and reckless, if not a contempt for thought and an exposure of it to humiliation, to pass judgment that denies this book, even if one holds no share of faith or religion. Art in the Qur'an is creativity in presentation, beauty in arrangement, strength in delivery. None of this necessitates reliance on imagination, fabrication, or invention, not when souls are upright and understandings are sound. Sayyid Qutb,